Man, we got a good one today. We got some pill popping, popcorn eating, brain mushing, whatever the popcorn bubble popping. We got all kinds of popping, brain popping, whatever. Your brain's gonna explode today. That's all I got to say. And if it doesn't, then you're watching the wrong show. Casey, good to see you. Jennifer, sister,
Hello.
how are you? Good to see you
I am
again. Get the back in the saddle. I sound like an Italian old lady or something. Get the back in the saddle.
I love it. How are you doing? You
I'm
good?
doing good. I needed the extra day, I guess, because
Mhm.
I get a little loopy sometimes. I get a little I'm sure you do too. You a little slap happy, and then
Mhm.
you just keep running. I cannot tell you how many things I ran across this week that I never knew I knew before until this week, and I say that every week.
Wow.
And there's some things that I feel like I've heard of but don't know a lot about. And I
Right.
know Jennifer's been working on some stuff. You know, we got this whole, hey Kimberly, how you doing?
Hi, Kimberly.
We got
Welcome.
this whole Jules Verne vibe going on, like the
Yes.
uh
Jules Verne, everyone, get on that vibe with us right now.
yeah, I'm
That's where
telling
it's
you,
all going. I feel it's going there, right, John? Jules
yeah,
Verne, we're
around
gonna
the world in what, 80 days or something like that?
he
Is
did,
it
yeah,
80 days?
80 days. And can I add in steampunk? Is anybody into the steampunk? Did they get caught up in that cosplay?
I got
I don't know any steampunkers. Do you, John?
not hardcore ones, no. I do like me a steampunk hat, like a top hat kind of thing with the little belt around it. Like
Right.
what's his name wears from
Yeah, John. Dave.
yes.
Dave has that. Yeah, he. I love when he puts that hat on because I feel like he jumps timelines. He is definitely okay. He's tapped in, and
There's some people out there that are, I'm finding, a lot more tapped in than I thought I ever was. And I'm finding all these people. So where did these people come from now? Like just suddenly people are experts in like Tartaria and all this other stuff. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
it
You
shows
know,
up when you want to see it, right?
I guess so, because I've had this theory for a long time, and some things I'm okay with people knowing about me, some things I'm not. But in general, my childlike version of me is at this point right now where a lot of the stuff that I've kind of looked at in the past is kind of circling back, as Jen would say. And there's, I've always had this strong suspicion about a number of things. And so today I want to start with a couple things and let it go to wherever it wants to go. And I'm sure Jennifer will, she's got a bunch of stuff too, I'm sure. But the thing right now, the common thread that's keeping me in these rabbit holes is the fact, you know, Jennifer's already been down this hole, but remember mud flood, because a lot of this ties in with, I believe, more than one cataclysmic event or some kind of attack or some kind of purposeful, malicious, civilization destroying kind of events. And it all keeps coming back to this time period that it seemed to happen in a relatively short period of time. And it seems like the mainstream historians, as we'll call them, are streamlining history as far as like they're squishing time together in some places, and in other places they're removing time and stretching time to make it seem like some of these events took place over a long period of time when in fact they only took place in a very short period of time. And I'm finding so many links to these catastrophic events, and it's like I don't even know. I'm like a kid. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know, like just my brain's. I can hear my mom telling me, just pick one, John, just pick one and go with it.
I know it
So
is. It's like that for me too. It gets this. I think it just began to go to a more. It's like a childhood remembrance. You know what I'm saying? Like it feels nostalgic. You don't know why, and it just increased when I read the Smoky God book. And when I started looking at Arctic Circle and the whole polar thing, when that came into my view, and Siberia. I mean, we
Yes.
say Siberia, but do we really look into what is Siberia? And that I had to hold that floodgate back a little bit because I know it's going to be a lot there. So I just need to kind of like pace myself with it all. But
Mhm.
it feels now like with the Jules Verne, you know, I feel like I wasn't as engaged with Jules Verne when I was younger. I kind of
Mhm.
knew about it, but I don't know what it was. But now I'm thinking, whoa, okay, Jules Verne, person of interest we need to look into. What did he know? What's going on here? Because
Mhm.
now this is what I'm saying. The whole aspect of Jules Verne, it taps into a different. It's like an imaginative back to an innocent time. Can I say that? Does that fit? Like more innocent, like not cabal run, like a time when you know that the people were technologically advanced.
Mhm.
I want to share something with you all and tell me if I'm expressing it correctly. Okay, John, when I think back to growing up in Philadelphia and like the homes in Philadelphia, they're very Tartarian. The
Mhm.
interiors. When I look at a lot of this stuff, this is how the homes look in West Philadelphia. And my grandmother's neighborhood in West Philadelphia, when I was a little girl, the neighborhood literally had every people group. We had these Armenian, they were widows, okay? They were sisters, but they were widowed and they wore these really beautiful like black dresses. They were long and they just wore black all the time. I was a little scared, but they were very sweet. You know what I'm saying? But it was a lot of really interesting people all down the block. And if you would go inside their homes, I remember vaguely technology, and it was from another time. It's almost like if you have one foot in one time and another foot in the other time, like this modern world. I
Mhm.
just remember seeing transistor radios, and you know what I'm trying to
Yes.
say, like different
Mhm.
things. Like my grandfather worked at RCA, which was in Camden, New Jersey, right across the river, and he was an electrician, like electrical type of guy. So he would fix the tubes, the
Mhm.
actual tubes inside the. So he would do this on the side, and people would bring their televisions and things to my grandfather, and he was down in the basement tinkering and fixing stuff. And I just remember seeing the stuff. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the things that were used. Like your grandmother had a Singer sewing machine, right?
Mhm.
A pedal one. That heavy. Things had a different substance to them. They were heavy.
Right.
You weren't gonna. Let me tell you something. You weren't gonna rob somebody's house and get away with too many things, right? Do you know what I'm saying? You're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
pick up a Singer sewing machine? Really? So there was something different about that experience for me. I feel like I possibly have had a tip of my toe in that a little bit of that 1800s. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Mhm.
touched people that touched this stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, yes.
so if I don't sound too like I'm trying to express it, I want to ask you, do you know what I mean? Like when you see old things, like maybe an old light bulb, like really
Mhm.
old, and you see all these kind of things, you go to a antique store and you look at stuff and you're like, why does this stuff seem so familiar in a
Yes.
different way?
I trust me, I'm with you. We
Yeah.
still actually have one of the family's old Singer sewing machines sitting in the hallway upstairs, and,
Wow. Really?
you know,
Oh,
the original cast iron, you know, flips under the table thing, you know, you have to flip it up,
right.
you know,
Yes.
and it's got the
Yeah,
big wheel on the outside and, the big foot pedal on the bottom,
right,
and
right.
it's just there's that whole time period, there's a familiarity there, and I can't like you said, it's hard to describe, it's hard to put your finger on, but there is a familiarity, and there's a, I think, you know, going back to what we were talking about maybe last episode or 2 episodes ago about, like race memory, like something that's in your genetics, something that
Mhm.
gets passed on, that
Right.
there's just this familiarity. Like even like I've we have this restaurant not too far from us called Jean's Place, and it's a lot of older people go there, but it's been there for a long time, and it has a 40s, 50s, like 30s, 40s, 50s theme to it. Like all the pictures are all black and white on the wall. They're all of old stars and singers and things like that, and people that have visited Cleveland. And you know, you've got people like Clark Gable and Greta Garbo and all these people all over the walls. This place is big too. And we go there a lot because there's some kind of it's weird, like a weird familiarity when we go there. It's just and they have all these old war posters for World War One and World War Two, like you know, for war bonds and things like that. And I live not too far from like if you ever saw the Christmas Story, like Christmas Story house, like where Ralphie grew up. That's literally like a few miles from our house. That whole neighborhood. That hey Denise, how you doing? Um, so every time we go through that neighborhood and we watch Christmas Story and that kind of stuff, there's just something about it. There's some kind of weird vibe, feel something like we don't feel out of place. We don't feel disconnected, or we don't.
Right.
It's even like the old days of the telegraph and the early days of the radio and telephone and that kind of stuff. And like you said, even looking at a light bulb, you know, like
Mm.
there's something so raw about looking at like an old light bulb with the filament
Totally.
and stuff like that, and the light, the color, the light that it produces, and that kind of thing. I
Mhm.
find myself attracted to more yellow light, like
Oh,
in warmer colors in houses, like these like den kind of rooms. They have dark wood
all right.
and books and yellow light, like almost like candlelight, but from a light bulb. And
Right, right,
there's like
right.
a comfort to that. I don't know what it is, but there's just some like that was the way of life, even for me at some point, you know, and or
Mhm.
somebody in my line or somewhere, you know, and the whole idea that we're all connected and you know that kind of thing. And but sticking with the 1800s and the early 1900s, and Jules Verne fits perfectly in with our little narrative that we're trying to spin here because um, he was born in 1828 and died March of 1905. And one of the books, actually, he has a almost a book for every subject that we've talked about. And like the
Amazing.
moon thing I'm going to talk about today, and I'm going to tell everybody right now, this is probably one of the wildest ideas I've ever had, and I'm running with it because I feel like I need to get it off of my chest
That's
because
right.
it's been in the back of my head for so long, and it keeps getting vindicated or whatever in the last couple weeks. It just keeps coming up, and it's like there has to be something to this. So I am going to bring it up to at some point. But
Good.
one of Jules Verne's books is Around the Moon, and it was published in 1869.
Whoa.
And
Interesting. Wow.
there's more and more evidence, even in the mainstream, more and more evidence seems to be coming forward that the moon is artificial,
Mm.
that it is not a natural thing. So keep that in the back of your head. We'll swing back around to that.
Mhm.
But we've also talked about Hollow Earth and Agartha, you know, that kind of thing. And Jules Verne had the, you know, Journey to the Center of the Earth. That was in 1864. Um, and then From Earth to the Moon. He's had all of these. A lot of his books seem to be really fantastic for the time and focused on things that
Mhm.
seem to be what we consider or the mainstream considers, you know, conspiracy theories now, and they get you kicked off of YouTube and that kind of stuff. It amazes me what is on YouTube actually that is still available to watch and what you can't watch on YouTube. Hey Buckaroo, how you doing? She says,
Hey.
Oh, I love bright white lighting akin to sunlight. I sometimes say I'm kin to lizards. I have to see sunlight. Yeah, a lot of people like that. I
Yeah,
mean, I
definitely.
take it from a guy who bred lizards for 30 years that you get used to that UV spectrum, that bright sunlight for a while. But I really just personally, like when I'm relaxing or reading or investigating, I like dark, cozy places with warm light, like warm yellow light, like an incandescent bulb, not an LED bulb or,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's why some people are drawn to those what is it? Like those cosplay eras. They get
Mhm.
caught in it because it feels like I think it feels more substantive, like it has a depth and weight to it. It's just like looking at what's happened to products, from the time that most of us were younger. Like we just talked about the Singer sewing machine. I mean,
Mhm.
that thing is impossible for one person to lift up. And then you have the sewing machines now, and they're what, plastic, and you can just carry them with little handles. And you just look at how things have degraded. Oh wow, here
Yes.
we
And
are.
to Jennifer's point, I absolutely love steampunk. I love the idea of it. I love the creativity people get into, like, because they create a lot of things obviously that never existed before. But this seems to be a fascinating subculture that a lot of people are involved with. I mean, there is a big following for steampunk, and with young people. I mean, I'm not talking like people in the 50s, 60s. I'm sure there are, but it seems like a lot of the people I've seen recently
Mhm.
are in their 40s or younger.
No, you're
And
right. Yeah.
into Jennifer's, into Jules Vernish, kind of thing. I mean, you could actually probably attribute this movement or this look or this style to Jules Verne
That's
and
what I thought of immediately.
like this steampunk airship, for example, you
Yeah.
know. And then you look at like the Jules Verne kind of stuff, like it's just it's so cool. I mean, how could you not like that? That is so creative and
It
so, you know, there's something to it. And going back to that whole familiar feeling, I'm
Mhm.
gonna throw this a curveball. I don't know if any of you know Edgar Rice Burroughs, another author, Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Sounds
He
familiar.
wrote he wrote a book. Oh, he wrote a bunch of books. Um, I think it was called The Princess of Mars. Let's see when Edgar Rice Burroughs was alive. Now that I'm thinking of it,
Mhm. Yes, in real time, everyone, look at that research happening right before your eyes.
1875 was when he was born.
Oh,
So let's see. At the Earth's core in 1914. Let's see. The one I'm thinking of is not listed. Let's see. Hold on a sec. He also wrote Tarzan for anybody that liked the
oh,
Tarzan series, books,
oh, I
that kind of
see.
thing. Um, Gosh, is it Queen of Mars? Like, maybe I'm Princess of Mars. That's what it is, not Queen of Mars. Princess of Mars. So anyway, to tie in with my point, I keep going off track. But all this stuff, this is how Jennifer and I do our research. A lot of times it's like, it's just, okay, well, now that I thought of this, let me look at this.
I
So
know. It's so
if
crazy.
you've ever seen, there was a movie that came out, I want to say it was like 2010-ish, somewhere in there. It's called John Carpenter. It is an amazing movie if you like the Jules Vernish feel and the Edgar Rice Burroughs feel of storytelling and that kind of stuff. And I don't want to give it away, but the premise of it kind of lines up with something I'm going to be talking about with the moon and stuff here. The premise of the book, and it's supposedly, they say it's not based on a true story, but supposedly Edgar Rice Burroughs wrote this based on an account about his uncle,
Mm,
and his uncle was very wealthy, yada yada yada.
mhm,
Let's
mm.
see, let me see. John Carpenter. Oops, can't spell. And by the end of the movie and the books and stuff, he calls himself John Carpenter of Mars. Just to
Oh,
put that
really?
in perspective.
Interesting.
Um, so John Carter. Oh my God, I'm going to use Wikipedia. Oh my gosh.
You have to. You cannot. I have fun on Wikipedia. I just admit it to everybody. I used to talk about Wikipedia so bad I refused to look on it. Now I'm like, oh, this is fun.
It is fun because and I will say, the person that founded Wikipedia hates what's happening to it with the wokeness and everything else, that people are changing history and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But from my understanding, these are all independent contributors that contribute to all these different subjects and these different pages and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So
I like it.
there's a legit chance there's probably some interesting, good information in some of this. And
Oh yeah, it can lead you down. Like if you look at the footnotes, if you really like, if you have a little time, it will lead you to some really legitimate stuff. So that's why I like it. I'm glad I don't poo-poo it like I used to.
yeah, I lately, just because of other things happening in the world, I've poo-pooed a lot of stuff, but every once in a while I'd let it back in, because I'm like, geez, I need this information, I guess.
Right. You know what? I look at it this way. I told everybody this is my, like, sometimes it'll be the springboard to start something, but what's interesting about these times, the people who are trying to rewrite things, they're actually messing it up for themselves if you read it, because you'll catch them in all of the like narrative, flip-flops and everything. So that's why I like it, because it's like investigating, a mystery, a case. And
Yes.
you look at, okay, what did the criminal do? And that's what I look at Wikipedia. Sorry, Wikipedia founder. It looks like a crime scene, and I'm just sorting
And
through.
you get all these pieces of yarn going to all these different pictures, like in the crime movies, they always got like the strings going, all these different, how they're tied
Exactly.
together kind of thing.
Right. It's like
And
a
that's how,
forensic file.
yes. And that's how I've been finding a lot of these time shifts and stuff like that, and missing time and added time, because I'll go through all these supposed mainstream experts, even from back in that day. There's a lot of contradiction. There's a lot of people that tell the same story, but use different dates, even if it's slightly different, even if it's a decade or 2 decades or whatever. I mean, if you think about it, like, I'm 56 years old. I've seen a lot of stuff in 56 years. Imagine what you can do to history with an extra 100 years or an extra 200 years or even 500 years. Can you imagine what you could hide and compress and remove and in that kind of time? And
that's a good point, because you know what, John, I think we think they do it all at once. You're the first person to give me that understanding. It is not an all at once type of thing. It is over the course. It's progressive.
and I mean, even looking back now, like looking back at these people, how they're chronologically placing things, like, and the biggest hiccup in the timeline occurs between the 1st century and the 10th century. So like 0 AD through like 1000 or even 1500. There's a lot of stuff that's overlapping that they're trying to make seem like it happened farther apart, especially when it comes to the Roman Empire and the Western Roman Empire specifically.
Right.
And with the architecture and everything else. And I can't even, I came across this Jesus thing the other day too that's blowing my mind, with Western Europe and England and Queen Elizabeth I, of all people. And that's a whole nother show, but it literally blew my mind, because one of the things that was written in this book about Queen Elizabeth, there was an account of, and I can't remember who it was, but they were demanding the release of Matthew, John, Paul, Peter. Like, there was like 7 biblical figures that they were demanding the release of from this English prison.
What?
And it was from like 1550 or something like that.
Oh.
And that led me down another rabbit hole. I just kept going down and down this rabbit hole, and it's just, oh my God, this
It's
guy makes an amazing point about how Jesus could have been from Western Europe. And because everything that's chronicled in the Catholic Bible in the New Testament, there's a coordinating place in Europe that matches, like Bethlehem and all these other things that they talk about. And
oh,
anyway, that's a whole nother show. And I don't want to,
that sounds
I don't
crazy.
know. And
Oh,
I want
we
to say this because I know a lot of people are diehard, true, Christians. I don't want to offend anybody when it comes to religion. That's
yeah.
my biggest fear. And I've had that since I was a kid. I've always tread lightly because I don't want to burst anybody's bubble about something they care deeply about. So I just want you to keep an open mind with some of this stuff. So if I bring up something and it seems like I'm excited about it, but it goes against something you believe in, just take it for a grain of salt, do what you will. Just I'm not trying to make you believe something different. I'm just putting it out there that this actually happened, or this was something, or it's available to research, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So back to John Carter in this whole time period, the Jules Verne, Edgar Rice Burroughs, yada yada yada. Well, here, I'll just read the premise. John Carter is a fictional Virginian soldier who acts, and this is like a Civil War soldier, acts as the initial protagonist of the Barsoom, and Barsoom is what Mars is referred to. Like, that's, if you lived on Mars, that was like we call Earth. Like, Barsoom is Mars's name.
Oh,
And
really?
they had a different name for Earth. There was Narsoon or something like that.
Okay.
But they were an advanced culture that lived on Mars, supposedly when Mars was still a livable planet kind of thing. But so Barsoom was the name that it was referred to. So the initial protagonist of the Barsoom stories by Edgar Rice Burroughs, a veteran of the American Civil War, he is transported to a fantastical realm called Barsoom, located on Mars, where he becomes a warrior battling various mythological beasts, alien armies, and malevolent foes. First created in 1911, the character has appeared in novels and short stories, comic books, television shows, and films, including the 2012, I was 2 years off, film called John Carter, which marked the 100th anniversary of the character's first appearance. And I love that tie-in because this is like, I'm going to stop giving Jennifer homework assignments because I know she's got a lot of stuff, but she's got like the X-Files, Highlander, all this other stuff. It's like, well, now John Carter's got to be added to the list.
Oh, okay. So the one that you're recommending is the most recent. How many versions have they had of it?
Just this. This was like the first
Okay.
major film, which was in 2012.
Oh, nice. Okay. Oh, wow.
But it's such a beautiful story. Even though it's fiction, it's a beautiful story, and it presents it in such a way that it seems real. Like,
oh, really?
it's almost like too real for somebody in the 1800s and early 1900s to know as much as they know about Mars and Earth and interstellar, relationships with planets and that kind of stuff. And because in the movie, there's this, John Carter loses his wife, and he's done with society, and he's done with whatever, and he's traveled the world, and he's collected all these artifacts, like from Egypt and this kind of stuff, and he ends up getting accidentally transported. Like, there's this race of people, the race of beings that are like eternal. And that's what I found interesting about these books, or the way it was written, that they're kind of watchers, they're kind of guardians of all these different realms, all these, and what knowledge is available, like, to people on Earth, and what knowledge is available to the people on Barsoom, and that kind of stuff. And so they're kind of like in the background, they're kind of fudging with history on both planets. They're causing these wars on Mars, and they're causing these rise and falls of these empires, and they're kind of doing the same thing on Earth to like they're just like they're getting started, and it just reminds me of like the idea of the things that we talk about and how history's been hidden and things have been manipulated. Like these characters, like this race of beings, they look human, kind of fit that role, and so if you haven't seen the movie, it's a great movie. I don't want to give it away because there's some like aha moments in the movie, and I really don't want to. I don't want to spoil the fun for anybody. So
well, good. Thanks for the It's a lot of good. Like I've missed tons of movies and series and everything. I haven't even watched like Game of Thrones. A lot of people tell me you should watch it. You should definitely watch it. I'm like,
well,
I would need so much time.
Yeah, that's a pretty involved. That's a time commitment there.
Yeah.
The Game of Thrones, anyway.
Mhm.
But a lot of people made time for it because there was a lot of nudity and that kind of stuff in it. So
Well,
that's what our society likes. So
yeah, I mean, definitely
violence and nudity. So
that's the winning combination.
and dragons.
Yeah, let's throw a dragon. But I wish, I guess when you're doing it after the fact, because it was such a cult favorite, it was, if you don't watch it with the gang of people from work and everybody, then you feel like, why do I bother? I could have done it with the group.
That's right. Denise says, just finished a book last night documenting how the lost tribes of Israel migrated to Western Europe.
Oh, interesting.
I
started hearing that concept, like, especially like Ireland and stuff. And it is very interesting. I am looking forward to going back into that area, doing more research, like Scotland again. I just fell in love with Scotland. I can't even imagine.
Scotland's, yes.
Wow.
I had no idea. Downloaded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books on Tartaria over the last 24 hours. Yes.
I can believe it. It's so much. That's great. You can find so many. Oh, wow.
One was Tartaria and the Sacred Tablets. And if I find links, if I remember what I did or how I found them, I'll put them in the description. Good. Tartaria and the Sacred Tablets. I know I'm getting off my moon thing. I want to go back to my moon thing, but I'm like a little kid in a candy store because all this stuff is just like amazing.
That's what I wrote that note to myself because I was like, me and my daughter laugh about that, like squirrel, from the movie. Right. We have ours, it's like puppies, because we literally one day stopped off because we saw a sign that said puppies, new puppies at this, and we stopped and we had somewhere to go. Can you imagine? So yeah, this is what this is like. It's like puppies.
Yeah. See, the other ones are The Issue with Great Tartary, The One-World Tartarians in English. It wasn't originally written in English. The Vegetable Lamb of Tartaria, A Curious Fable. The Magician's Own Book of the Whole Art of Conjuring. The Tartaria is in there somewhere, but this was a book that early, like in the 1800s, magicians would buy or purchase and acquire to perfect their craft.
Oh my.
Tibet, Tartaria, and Mongolia was one of the other ones. And I keep finding, every time I download some of these books, it takes me to some place where I find all this Tartarian architecture. Wow. I didn't realize that some of these houses that, like these Tartarian, like these mud flood houses, they had entire theaters hidden below their house.
Wow.
Like this, I'll play this really quick. This was in one of the mud flood houses.
Ah sì?
Oh.
Ma questo è un passaggio segreto. Ma dai, posso andare? Oddio.
Oh, wow.
Non è possibile.
I didn't expect this. Oh my God, I wasn't ready. You even warned us that it was oh my goodness. I need a drink of water. Excuse me, you guys. That was a lot. 1 minute, I'm still here. Oh my gosh. How Did anyone else feel the same way? Did that just take? You even warned us. Oh my goodness. That
It's
literally, I felt like I was going on that little tour. That was shot really well. Oh, they're having the same reaction. Look.
and I think I'll have to double check, but I think this was like in northern Russia, like which would have been part of Tartaria. You could still, the guy that's narrating that went down there, I think was speaking Russian. And you could clearly hear his surprise, like his genuine reaction. And I keep seeing things like this. Excuse me. Recently went down a rabbit hole with
that was all. Look at all the reactions. Like that literally took my breath away because I didn't look at right. All of you were I was literally like on the edge of my seat, like how far down is this? But the opening of that theater, you said theater. I thought we were seeing the theater. Is that what you all thought when the seats were just around? I was like, oh, okay, little room, a little theater. They probably have a little projector, that's, and then it went into this theater. It's like,
yes.
whoa, not ready. Oh, whoa. Okay.
Yeah,
there are people, I just want to let you all know, there are people that are calling this conspiracy theory that
yes.
this is all conspiracy. It's like, how can anyone deny objective reality? This is so objective. Wow.
I've seen recently too in the last couple of days, and it might have been that when I was going through and I saw the Conspiracy RS channel. I've been coming across, like in the parks and stuff like that, or in downtown squares, you always see like this rotunda thing. They call it bandstand, like a bandstand.
Yeah, bandstand. That
looks like a gazebo kind of thing.
Right. We have a lot in Philly. In fact, the show Bandstand started in Philadelphia.
But the ones that were built, again, quote unquote, before the turn of the 20th century, like in the late 1800s and earlier, almost everyone has a basement and has like a bomb shelter / whatever underneath it. And I'd say about 50 to 60% of them that I've seen so far have tunnels that lead to other buildings in the city and lead to other areas in the city. And that's that's a whole nother rabbit hole. And I'll just
that is really deep, because if you've grown up in an old city like me and John, probably not even just the cities. I bet they have bandstands. Yeah. In little towns, right? Townships.
Yeah. Some of these were in little towns, literally in the middle of nowhere in some of these countries, like literally in the middle of nowhere.
Yep. I've seen bandstands when I'm driving through little towns in the South. I think a lot down in this area in the South, like if you're going through Alabama and stuff, you'll see a lot of these. Oh my goodness.
These like this one, like these kinds specifically, the very ornate ones, like the Tartarian mud floody kind of things, the ones that have, this very specific kind of looking architecture to them.
Exactly. See, this is what I mean, right, everybody? Doesn't this stuff feel eerily familiar? Like it gives you this weird nostalgic feeling.
Yeah, I mean, look at them. I mean, look at that.
They're amazing. But
so that's another rabbit hole. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, they have.
I already blew your mind away with the the theater under the house.
Yeah, I'm still trying to balance myself back from the theater under the house. I gotta pace myself. That was way over. That I need to talk to the manager. I wasn't expecting that.
There's an event that happened in 1908. And I don't know if any of you've heard of it, but Dan Aykroyd's actually mentioned a couple times in a couple movies he's been in. Dan Aykroyd has been a kind of an old world red pillar for a long time. And so a lot of the movies, he squeezes in a lot of this stuff. Like, cause he's into it too.
Really? Dan?
Yeah. And this is how I heard of it the first time. But when I ran across it again last week, I'm like, oh, so this was what he was talking about, after I dug into it further. So in 1908, it was called the Tunguska event. So if you've ever heard of Tunguska, it was in Siberia. Here we go. We're going with Siberia again.
Yes, I have heard of this. Uh-oh. Hold
there
on.
Was a,
Hold on to
there
your
was
seats.
a huge area out in the middle of nowhere that was leveled. All the trees were flattened. There was a huge explosion in the atmosphere. And this was in 1908. Nobody knows for sure what happened. There's a lot of people that speculate, and there's like a couple schools of thought. One is that when a meteor entered our atmosphere and was burning up in the atmosphere over Russia, some of the gases it was releasing and that kind of stuff, and at some point before it hit the ground, it actually exploded above the Siberia in Tunguska here, and caused this devastation. So the explosion flattened everything. So that's one school of thought. And the other, pardon my French, gayer school of thought that I can't believe anybody even came up with this, but yes, one day after another, URNN did a long documentary about the mud floods. Yes, he did.
Yes, that was the person who started me on my mud flood journey. They turned me on to that one.
He also has a series on flat Earth.
I watched them both. Yeah,
yes.
I couldn't unpeel myself from his documentaries. That got me started.
So the Tunguska event, like, so the second, and sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody with the gay thing. Gay, Ghey is how that's how it's spelled in my book, because it's an anon thing. But anyway, so the other school of thought was, well, and this was so, and I can't believe they got people to believe this, also involves an asteroid or a meteor or a comet or whatever, some celestial body entering the Earth's atmosphere. And it skips, like, it doesn't hit the ground, but it, like, so while it's burning up in our atmosphere, it skips back into space. Because nobody can find like any like meteor fragments or any like other like rocky fragments from this explosion. So they're saying, well, it never hit the Earth, which goes back to the explosion above the Earth theory. So it skipped back into space. Like it went, like it paid a visit, went back into space. So keep that in the back of your head. I'm going to read some of this stuff from 1908. Because this is going to tie in with my crazy moon theory. So keep your tinfoil hats ready, or keep them on, I should say. Don't take them off. So let's see. This is from 1908. I don't remember what paper this. Let's see. In the Observer on September 18th, 1938. At the time of the fall in 1908, the luminous silvery vapor. I love how, like in the 1800s and 1900s, they always use ether and vapor. And it's always spelled the English way with the O-U-R, so vapor, formed at the height of some 50 miles as the meteorite struck the Earth's atmosphere, illuminate. And this is another thing, because people could see this for thousands of miles. Like people could and felt this, like this explosion, like as far as England. The glow was visible at almost any point in Siberia and was even seen as far away as the Caucasus, wherever that's at. Many Russians, believing this to be a sign of the approaching end of the world, left their homes and belongings and wandered off to holy shrines and monasteries. Many prayed and fasted in preparation. The effect of the collision, and this is a commentary, was also felt in Britain, with a reader writing to the Times newspaper inquiring why the sky was so bright at night. She didn't receive an answer in 1908, but in 1991, Guardian Notes and Queries offered the hypothesis that the amount of dust thrown up by the blast diffracted the sun's rays, leading to someone playing a round of golf at St. Andrews at 2:30 in the morning. This, like when I read that, if you ever saw Men in Black, when Will Smith's trying to describe, like when he's flashy thinking somebody and he's trying to give him a new memory and he's trying to like, oh, it's like the light bouncing off the swamp gas and Venus and blah, blah, blah. Like it was like he was just making this stuff up as he was going along. That's what that sounded like when I read that.
Exactly.
Fascination with the Tunguska event has been fueled not only by the sheer scale of the event, and I'm going to show some pictures here,
Okay.
But with the mystery surrounding it, scientists have been divided for over a century over what actually caused the impact, arguing between comet, asteroid, and meteor. Oops. I want to see me there. Hold on. Where's my folder? Hold on.
Mhm.
I hate that. I close things and I shouldn't be closing them. I'm like, ah. All right, here we go. We're back. So I'm going backwards in my notes just because it makes more sense going this direction than the other. Something traveling that fast has collided with the Earth before in June of 1908. And this has to do with, we'll talk about that in a minute, when an asteroid or comet exploded over Siberia. It has come to known as the Tunguska event. 1,000 square miles of devastation. Think about that. 1,000 square miles of leveled trees. I mean, just flattened.
Wow.
People were aware that something momentous had happened, but as the above report demonstrates, the region itself was inaccessible until the 1920s. The 1921 expedition laid bare the devastation caused by impact with 80 miles of trees leveled over 830 square miles. These days, we're not even going to talk about NASA.
If you were going to read that, I was going to go, ugh.
So there's hundreds of pictures, but all the pictures, it looks post-apocalyptic. I mean,
yes. My
they're
Ooh,
so
like a nuclear winter, right?
yeah, kind of. It happens to be in Siberia.
Yeah.
Like
Ooh.
this is one of the more famous, kind of pictures. I mean, and they're just leveled.
So were there any other structures besides trees that were in that area of Siberia? Did they have
No,
any other like architecture?
I think it was pretty remote. I don't think there was buildings because it left a crater too, even though nothing physically impacted.
Right.
A crater was left from the explosion.
Okay.
And so again, this goes like these people are trying to draw this stuff for like computer graphics. Like, so here's where the meteor comes and it explodes over this area, and then it keeps going, and then it goes back into space. Really?
I tell them that I don't have as much faith as I would need to believe their things. Like I'll stick with my Christian fables, as they like to call them, because that takes a little more like mental gymnastics.
Yes, it does.
Wow.
And it looks this was the affected area here.
Whoa.
You can see it was bordered on Mongolia, China, Kazakhstan. It lives very close to the Arctic Circle, in Siberia there. But it affected a very, very large area. And so let's see here.
Whoa.
So now we're going to get into kind of what I wanted to talk about, or the idea of, so keeping the idea of more than one cataclysmic event at different times in our history in different areas, some globally, some regionally. The most common event seems to be one of two things: where things were devastated and burned or melted, like the heat was so intense that it actually melted stone. And we see that from space now. We see that we can see like if you were to run, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole, like run an electrical current through the earth, through the surface of the earth. Like if a lightning strike would hit sand, how like those artists, they get those poles or whatever, and they make lightning strike the sand, and it makes this glass art. And it's got like the shape of the lightning and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a lot of places that have scarred the earth where the stone and the rock has been melted, kind of in that shape, in like a lightning kind of form. like
Oh.
an energy weapon or an energy, some kind of massive amount of electrical discharge or some kind of massive amount of energy, hot enough to melt stone. So that's one kind of event that seems to keep coming up. And then the other is flood events, like where large regions are covered. It doesn't have to be for a long period of time, but just
Mhm.
where the earth and everything's disturbed by water and sediment and things and dirt and mud have been carried to other areas and buried some things and uncovered other things. So there, it looks like there's like flood events and fire events.
Mm,
And
mm,
what I'm going to talk about right now involves fire events or events that can affect not only a wide range or a big area, but can affect all kinds of materials as well, including people and structures and hillsides and that kind of stuff. So going back to the idea that we talked about, that I just, again, this is going to sound crazy, but just bear with me. Put your tinfoil hat on and strap it on. Just keep it on. Don't take it off. Just get a chin strap and put it on and just. So the idea that the moon is not natural, that is an artificial object.
mm.
So I'm going to back up and preface this with some things that I found recently that kind of backed up what I was thinking in my childhood and in my early adult life. Is that go ahead, say it.
Oh, I was just gonna say that maybe they've been mocking us when they did the moon being made out of cheese, remember? It's like, wow.
That's funny you should say that, because one of the videos I watched a couple days ago mentioned that specific example.
Oh, really?
And yes, and about reality and that kind of stuff.
That's right. I feel the same way. One day after another, nothing sounds crazy anymore. We are in, okay, let me just say, I feel like we're all in an insane asylum, okay? If anybody's saying things are crazy, it's like,
And we
hello,
just had lunch and we're on Jello right now, so we're
have you
just
looked around? Hello. That's how I feel at this point.
yes, we're literally in clown world. So why not act like we're under the big top? So here we go. I don't know who's directing it, but we're definitely under the big top. So with that in mind, I always had a suspicion or always thought about the idea that the only reason the moon is there is like an observation station. Like let's say that you had a terrarium, a fishbowl, or whatever, and you created this beautiful landscape, and you created these, and you put all your pets in there, your wonderful creations or your wonderful findings. Let's say like you had an ant farm or whatever. Like if we were the people doing it, and you were doing the ant farm, or you were hunting for deer, you would have like a cover, like a place to hide and observe and keep track of progress and keep, whatever the case is, or even influence or punish or whatever at some points, whatever. Like you would be able to make changes to whatever it was. So it's becoming more and more clear, and a lot of, I hate to keep using the word mainstream, but a lot of scientists seem to be getting on the bandwagon that the moon is not what it seems to be. Some won't go as far as saying that it's artificial,
Mhm.
but a lot of them are getting on the bandwagon that there's no way, because the two schools of thought about the moon right now, one is that a large interstellar body like the size of Mars or something collided with the Earth at one point, and the resulting whatever ended up becoming the moon. That's one of the major theories of how the moon formed. The other is that the moon was already existing in the solar system, and it was passing through the neighborhood, and Earth picked it up. Like Earth just grabbed this large body and just, okay, now you're in my orbit. So that's the other theory. But what people are arguing about but agreeing on is the Earth is not massive enough or dense enough to attract a body that size and keep it and hold it in a perfect circular orbit around our fishbowl, our realm, our whatever. And if you look at like massive planets, even though it's a gas giant like Jupiter and other planets that have moons, hey Julie,
hey Julie, happy Tuesday.
And other planets that have moons or satellites, as they call them, all of them, none of them have, proportionally speaking, as big of a satellite as we do. Like the Earth has a massive satellite. The moon is massive compared to the Earth, and compared, like if you were to compare like Jupiter's moons to Jupiter, compare Mars's moons to Mars and Saturn to Saturn's and that kind of stuff. They're saying it's statistically impossible with the mass of the Earth that we know of. Again, I'm using relative terms that the wizards and warlocks use. That the mass that the Earth has is enough to not only capture a body that big in our solar system, but to maintain and keep it in orbit without colliding with the Earth. And it's also the proportions of the moon just happen to be exactly the same proportions of the sun. Like, and that's why you have perfect solar and lunar eclipses that one or the other completely get blocked out, because they have exactly the same proportions, even though they're different sizes. And that does not occur anywhere else in our solar system. So in 1969, I believe, again, our friends at NASA, they crashed one of the lunar modules purposely into the surface of the moon because they wanted to hear what the moon sounded like. You know, like when they do explosions here on Earth, like if you ever saw Jurassic Park, when they were looking for dinosaur bones, they had this little device where they'd put a shotgun shell in, they'd explode it above the surface, and it would send a shockwave through the Earth, and the machine would pick up the echoes of the radar back, the sound waves back, and it would show images under the ground, like if there were dinosaur bones, you know, that kind of thing. Okay. So kind of the same principle. They wanted to like whack the moon and wanted to hear like what it sounded like.
Oh my.
And it surprised everybody. And to this day, nobody can say why, but for an hour straight after that impact, and this is, I quote every scientist that was alive during that time and that is alive today that knows about that. Without exception, they all said that the moon rang like a bell for an hour. For an hour straight, the moon rang like a bell, and the only way that could happen is if it was hollow. Wow. So that's another, you know, stay with me, keep the tinfoil hats on. So now we're thinking that it's an artificial object, happens to be hollow. And the next thing is the impact craters. And supposedly the moon's been, because of the light atmosphere or lack of atmosphere, you know, over the course of its life has been bombarded with asteroids and that kind of stuff. But none of them are like on Earth, our impact craters from previous, you know, impacts from meteors and that kind of stuff are pretty significant size, you know, considering we have a very dense atmosphere compared to that of a moon. So these objects that strike the moon don't leave deep impact craters, which would mean that the surface is a lot more solid than we are led to believe. So also recently in the last 40 years, 30 years, in NASA's own archives, there's images of structures on the moon, on the bright side of the moon, not the dark side of the moon, because obviously we're not allowed to see the dark side of the moon. And that's another point I'm going to make here in a second, that have angular, like that are like, they don't look natural. Like they have straight edges, angular features. In some cases, there looks like there's piping, like tubes, giant tubes running in different areas. Almost like there's like civilization or something that had been there or is there, and that's hidden it pretty well under the dirt or under the silt or whatever you want to call it. There's a couple features that almost look like, I don't want to say cannon barrels, but that's kind of what they look like. And I think China recently sent a probe to the moon, whether that was true or not, I don't know, but supposedly they did. And they ventured to the dark side, apparently, to the dark side of the moon, not to the dark side of reality. And discovered some interesting things, some photographs they couldn't explain. And won't even get into this, but something about green goo somewhere. But anyway, so one of the things too, again, in the all improbable series of events that happened to put the moon in our orbit, I can't verify every moon in the solar system or in the universe or in a galaxy, but almost every celestial body, when it's supposedly captured by another celestial body's gravitational field, because the gravitational fields aren't always perfect, they're always in flux, they always vary a little bit, and depending on times of year and that kind of stuff. All of these foreign bodies, at some point, well, first of all, they don't have perfect orbits, perfect circular orbits, and then they rotate, they move, they either wobble or they rotate or they spin. Like they're not frozen in one, like one spot. Like it's always moving the same way, and you only see the same side. Like in a normal circumstance, it would, every full moon you should be able to see a different part of the moon. Like you should be able to, because it would be spinning on its axis or wobbling or doing some kind of something. No, it's literally like somebody's holding their hand on it. Like it's firmly in place, and it never varies. It never changes.
Wow.
So with that in mind, I know this is long-winded, but with that in mind, some of these events that have happened in the past, and they seem to be, the regularity seems to be a lot more frequent than we've been told. So like even going to these events where whole areas of seeming like the stone was hot enough to be melted, and you have all these like electrical tributaries on the sides of mountains, like I can't remember what region of the earth, but I want to say it's like in I don't want to give you the wrong answers, but so with that in mind, and let's say that there is an intelligence behind the events of our past, and an intelligence behind, let's say somebody or somebody's, or keeping the John Carter theme of a race of people or beings that mess with history all the time. And if you didn't want to be seen and you were in this blind, like hunters have blinds, let's say the moon is their blind. That's their whatever, their observatory, so to speak. And all the activity happens on the dark side, so which we never see. And we aren't allowed to go over there. And it's interesting because supposedly, even from the astronauts that have been there themselves, a number of them have let slip that they were never actually there and they weren't allowed to go. I'm going to play a short video clip of Buzz Aldrin, and this young lady asks him some direct questions, and I want you to pay attention and listen very closely to his answer. And then I'm going to play another video, and we'll talk to. I'll let Jennifer jump in because I feel like I'm hogging all the time now, and then we'll go back. So I'll play this clip real quick.
Okay, Zoe, favorite.
What is your favorite thing about space?
Go in there. Go in there.
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And if it didn't happen, it's nice to know why it didn't happen. So in the future, if we want to keep doing something, we need to know why something stopped in the past that we wanted to keep it going.
Oh boy. I never saw that. That was really odd. Oh, your sound isn't on.
Oh, dang it. I hate when I do that. And that isn't the only time he's gotten flustered and said something he probably shouldn't have. And there's other astronauts that have done the same.
Wow.
So, and there was an interview, and I can't remember what year it was, but they specifically talked about the dark side of the moon. And almost like without exception, everybody that's ever been asked the question in NASA or one of these astronauts that have quote unquote been to the moon, it's almost like somebody killed their grandmother. Like they stop, like they get real somber and they don't like, they look at each other like, do you want to talk or should I say anything or are we allowed to say anything? Yes. Let's see. He said we did not go in a roundabout way. Yeah, no, he came right out and said because we didn't go.
That was crazy. That was so he seemed to be in a trance when he was like something about the little girl's innocence almost, right? It was like
He was caught off guard.
He could not lie to her. It was something about how pure she asked that question.
And you know how Jennifer and I used to being called conspiracy theorists for at least a year and a half now. So
title. I love it.
If they don't want people to latch onto something, they're going to call it a crazy conspiracy theory. So with that in mind, this is by somebody named John Austin. This was in 2017. Hollow moon that rings like a bell put into orbit by ancient aliens, shock theory claims. A crazy theory that the moon is a hollow artificial satellite put in Earth's orbit by aliens who could live inside is gathering pace. Keep that in mind. Gathering pace.
What year was that?
2017.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
The favorite official scientific explanation is that the moon broke off from the Earth's crust after it was struck by a massive Mars-sized object, which we talked about, and then remained in our orbit. And first of all, if our Earth's struck by a Mars-sized object, there's going to be an effing crater, the size of Mars on Earth somewhere, anyway.
Wow. Yeah.
Many pseudoscientists, again, either conspiracy theorists or pseudoscientists. So even if you have a degree, you're not a real scientist, you're a pseudoscientist. So many we found a lot of that with the CV-19 stuff. Many pseudoscientists and conspiracy theorists, how it's in red, have latched on to claims that the moon's existence and relationship with Earth defies physics. No shit, Sherlock. To brand it an artificially created object. They have taken the giant leap from this to claim Aliens from billions of years ago created the structure, and it may even be occupied inside in a similar way to the infamous Death Star from Star Wars. Hollywood does get a lot of their stories from stuff like this, just FYI. So the latest supporter of the conspiracy theory has devoted an entire article to the claims on his website, and I can't remember the dude's name now. And he's how I found this to begin with. So how long is this one? I don't want to play too long of videos here. That was 6 minutes. That was 12 minutes. All right. I'm going to start playing this, and if it seems like it's kind of off base, then we'll just stop. But
hey guys, thanks for watching Beyond Science. It's Mike Chen. The moon is beautiful.
He's way too happy, by the way.
It has played a huge role in human history. We created calendars, holidays, and mythical creatures based on it. It gives wolves something to howl at, and it provides a glow of gentle light in the world of darkness. The moon is the yin to the sun's yang, and together they create a balanced earth. And although we are so close to the moon, there's still so many things we don't know about it, like how it was created. Robin Brett, a scientist from NASA, even stated, "It seems easier to explain the non-existence of the moon than its existence." There are many theories on the moon's creation. Some think the moon was formed from the debris thrown into orbit when something collided with Earth. Some think the Earth's gravity captured the moon when it was passing by. And then there are theories that the moon, which is supposed to be a natural satellite, isn't so natural at all. That this huge light bulb could have actually been created by an intelligent and technologically advanced civilization. Now, I've been wanting to make this video for a long time, like years. Seriously, this script, get it, lunacy? Seriously, I wanted to make, but like I mentioned before, there's just so many things.
I said, welcome to the club, buddy.
We don't know about this beautiful werewolf inducer. So like I say in the beginning of many videos on this channel, please just keep an open mind, hear the information, and judge for yourself. I've talked about the hollow earth theory. Now let's talk about the hollow moon theory. The moon has a density of 3.34 grams per cubic centimeter, while the earth has a density of 5.5 grams per cubic centimeter. This shows that the inside of the moon is less dense than the outside, providing evidence that it could actually be hollow. What's more, on November of 1969, NASA created an impact just to measure the moon's seismic waves and were left baffled by the results. The moon was described to have, quote, rang like a bell as its vibrations went on for an hour. And according to some at NASA, even wobbled, leading many scientists to believe that the moon itself is hollow like a bell. MIT's Dr. Sean C. Solomon even wrote, "The lunar orbiter experiments vastly improved our knowledge of the moon's gravitational field, indicating the frightening possibility that the moon might be hollow." Number 2, moonzits, or moon craters. The craters on the moon are thought to be cavities created by falling asteroids, meteorites, or volcanic explosions. But what's mysterious about some of these craters is that the bottom of these craters are actually convex, meaning the surface curves outwards rather than inwards. Now, this really shouldn't be possible because meteorites traveling at 25,000 miles per hour could not possibly make convex craters. Another interesting fact is the depths of the craters on the moon are actually very shallow in comparison to their circumference. The impact by a meteorite or falling object should have created craters multiple times deeper if the moon was merely a solid piece of rock. Number 3, the size of the moon. First, let's compare our moon to the moons of other planets. Take Jupiter, for example. Jupiter has moons because of its stronger gravitational influences, but even still, its moons are about 1/80th its size. Jupiter has more than 11 times the diameter of Earth, yet Earth has a moon that is 1/4 its size. Other planets that are similar in gravitational influence to Earth, such as Mercury and Venus, don't even have moons. And according to Professor Isaac Asimov of Boston University, the moon is too big to have been captured by the Earth. The chances of such a capture having been effected in the moon then having taken up nearly circular orbits around our Earth are too small to make such an eventuality credible. So now let's talk about about the moon's strange orbit. The moon moves in a perfect circular orbit. Well, almost perfect. It has the slightest variation, and it's the only natural satellite that has such an orbit. Most orbits that are observed are elliptical, not nearly perfect with a little flaw. What's stranger is that the gravitational center of the moon is nearly 6,000 feet closer to Earth than its geometric center. With such a significant discrepancy, scientists remain unable to explain how the moon manages to maintain its nearly perfect circular orbit without wobbling. Number 5, the moon stabilizes the Earth. The moon has been known as a significant stabilizer of the Earth's orbital axis. Without the moon, researchers predict that the Earth's tilt could vary as much as 85 degrees. If that was to happen, then the sun would move from being directly over the equator to directly over the poles over the course of a few million years, a change that could result in dramatic climate shifts. This is strange because the phenomenon of a satellite stabilizing a planet
Don't let AOC know that.
is thought to be extremely rare throughout the universe. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, we really have no clear idea how the moon was created, but there are 3 main theories. One is that, like I mentioned, the moon was once part of Earth and has broken away. Another is that the moon formed at the same time as Earth. And the third theory says that the moon was just floating around out there and got caught in Earth's gravitational pull. But these theories fail to answer why the moon and Earth are so different composition-wise. And if the moon was indeed a runaway satellite that was caught by the Earth's gravitational pull, it doesn't explain the moon's almost perfect orbit and how something of its size could even be caught by Earth's gravity, as in cases where a satellite is captured by a planet, the satellite would exhibit.
Anyway, you get the idea. So
He just needed to read Genesis. That's all.
that's right.
He'd have his answer.
You got your little Tartarian fur on there.
Yeah, I was getting cold. I'm sorry, guys. And then Josephine was mad because, yeah, she wanted this little blankie. It's not real fur. Please. No,
We've got a blanket very similar to that. Same color though.
I won it actually. It was a contest I won on Instagram. I won one of those, the weighted blankets.
Mhm.
It's a 25-pound blanket.
Jeez.
So they threw this number in and a few other things. It was really cool, I just answered a question on Instagram and got all this cool stuff.
Well, I don't know if you still do, but do you still have an Instagram account?
Yeah, as far as I know, yeah, they haven't sent me any nasty notes lately, but yeah, I still have one.
Oh, that's good. I mean, for
The
you
second-
anyway.
My third one. Yeah, I'm on my third one. Oh, Linda, you have weighted blankets? I haven't used mine this year, actually. I used it a lot during 2020 because I won this contest in 2019. So I had the blanket just in time for all the weirdness. And it's good. It was a different kind of blankie.
So, we all love blankets. Julie does too.
Oh yeah.
I use one every night when I'm on the couch. I'm watching TV. I've got one on usually.
Oh yeah.
Because our house downstairs is colder than upstairs by a lot. Like if we have the temperature set at 72, it's like Arctic cold in the living room. But upstairs, it's like you got to have the windows open and the fans on, And So,
wow.
Back to the 1800s, the Tartarians, the mud flood, and if you guys don't know, Jennifer has a lot of videos that are mud floody related, and the idea or the concept of the mud flood, I shouldn't say it's a concept because it's a reality, because there's actual evidence that these buildings were buried by feet of mud, in some cases up to 30 feet, depending on what area it's in. Like an entire floor, so like 12 feet or whatever is common, like that's like the average. So, and back to the show we did last week when we talked about a lot of the photographs, like with the very, like the beautiful, like the Tartarian looking inspired, if not actual Tartarian architecture. And a lot of these old photos from like the early to mid 1800s, they're like ghost towns. Like nobody, for as nice as these structures are and the amount of people that would have to have lived there to construct these buildings and to have a thriving, economy slash civilization slash whatever, they're literally like in a lot of these pictures, just like literally nobody in the pictures. Like they show like all these streets and these big buildings and, like there's literally nobody in the streets. Occasionally you'll see a person or two in a wagon or whatever, but it's not bustling. It's not like you would expect a city that has all this architecture and all these buildings and this, you would expect it to be just flourishing.
Exactly. It's really odd to see.
It is odd. And when you look at even older photos that were taken in the early 1800s of buildings that were even older, one of the common things that you find in the Tartarian architecture is metal rods in the peaks of a lot of these, like, how like let me see if I can find a picture here. Because a lot of the buildings themselves, they have a very specific look. They've got, they've always got little spires or they've got little dome, kind of almost Turkish looking kind of what we would think Turkish would look like. But a lot of the old pictures, and this is another thing, I think photography has been around a lot longer than what they say it was too.
I do too. I definitely do, because there's no way that the year that they say the first photography, the first camera and everything, there were too many pictures being taken that year. And I brought this up a long time back where I said, how would they understand the technology that quickly? Like something that comes out of like a vacuum. You've never had this device, and now you have people taking these perfect pictures with lighting and everything. See, that's the thing. The lighting, that takes a while to learn. Lots of trial and error. And how is the lighting perfectly balanced inside and outside in these pictures, as well as nighttime? They've taken night pictures, and so you're like, okay. Okay, Wikipedia, I believe you.
Yeah, there's where is it? I'm trying to find from our previous show. I just wanted to. So I'm just going to use this as an example because it's the only one I could find quickly. Like where these little bulb looking things, these little towers and these ornamentations on the top. In older photos, like pre 1850, almost every one of these would have a metal rod going straight up out of the top of it.
Right.
And this is anywhere in the world where these buildings were found. So not just in, the typical, what we consider Tartaria, the empire of Tartaria, but like in Russia, in Canada, what we now know as northern United States, England. So it's almost as if there was A or B, like A, there was a way to communicate with each other, or there is a way to transfer power between, like, or to harness power from the, we'll use an 1800s term, from the ether.
Right. Exactly. They have antennas on these.
Yes.
Yeah. I saw
antenna is a better word. That's
that's what we call it in the chatmosphere. We say antennas. I got it from the people that knew about. They went before us, John. They've been in the mud floods for a bit, and they call them antennas, and it makes sense, right? So they can pick up signals from the ether, and then you have the issue of lightning and all of that connecting to these antennas. In fact, a picture I had today that I think I used it. Yeah, I used it in some content I uploaded today. A picture from the 1800s of a interior of a home, and it was just what you would think of, just a big home, not too palatial, but they had some things. If you really scanned the room to look at everything, there was something that was on the side of it, was like a doorway, and they had like, okay, two little shelves, like if you were going to go just through a doorway, two shelves kind of midway up, but they had some sort of metal device. It looked like a can almost, but it was ornate on the side of the doors. But the house was built to have these little things, you know what I'm saying, like
Mhm.
it was made for them. And I was just thinking, now that we're more open to thinking about their technology, I was just thinking, what could that have been? Because I know it has something to do with making the home more efficient in terms of
Mhm.
power, because they've shown how, the bigger homes from the 1800s, like that place you just showed, they weren't churches. That's another thing to consider. They were not used as, that wasn't the initial, plan for them to be used in the way that they're used now. So what were they for?
Yes. And
Because a lot of them didn't have bathrooms. Imagine that, like, and then heating, and they have these like interesting plates and stuff that heated these big antiquitech. When I first saw that word, I love that word, antiquitech. Doesn't that feel like almost the nostalgic? It's kind of
yes,
something about that word even.
that absolutely the whole time period. And you
Mhm.
touched on something that I ran across the other day too, about heating and cooling, especially in areas where it's like there's an obvious change of seasons and it gets cold and that kind of stuff.
Right.
It's like, because a lot of these buildings, these mud flood buildings, on the surface, if you're not paying attention to the idea or the concept that they are mud flood, like, because some people don't even know what that means and they don't care.
Oh,
They just,
yeah. Yeah.
and they're wondering, because there's like no fireplaces, and things like that. So it's like, how did they like, this is obviously in a cold area. How did they heat these things?
Mhm.
And so they keep finding, like what you're describing, all these interesting things that seem like they belong there, but nobody knows what they are, kind of thing.
Because they could be so small. The thing that I saw in one of it was a palace. So I'm not talking just regular house. So you know how tall those ceilings can be and everything.
Mhm.
And they said that the heat, the temperature inside throughout the structure stayed at like an ambient, like 70 something, like whatever you would think you'd
Mhm.
tune your home to. It stayed that way all the time. I'm like, what? And it was just like flat. It was some sort of metal, hard, substance, but it went against the wall.
Mhm.
And whatever it did, this plate, a heating plate.
Yeah, so they're finding stuff like what you're describing, and finding, because the only plausible explanations on a lot of this stuff is that they had abundant access to free energy, like
Yeah.
like the ability to, like you said, like a heating plate, like, but generating an electrical charge or current going through a lot of these, we'll just call them appliances, um, without seemingly having, a lot of infrastructure for electricity and a lot of infrastructure for water, for example. And there's a couple, and I can't remember where they're at. They were like, a lot of these buildings are self-sufficient, and that was the key thing that caught
Mhm.
caught my eye whenever I'd run across one of these true mud flood buildings, is that they were self-sufficient. Like they were able to generate their own water, they were able to generate their own electricity somehow. So they were able to survive in seemingly in the middle of nowhere without
Yeah.
access to like modern facilities.
Exactly. And just knowing that things should be abundant. We have been so beaten down by this small group, and we have thought that it's normal to be buying energy and power from like a group of people. Like it's so beyond unnatural. And I, I'm just amazed that it seems so familiar at the same time,
Mhm.
the abundance of it. It must be like what it says in scripture is that Yah, Yahweh, he put in us eternity in our hearts. So this must have something to do with like that epigenetic thing. So if you have eternity in your heart, that means it's in your DNA. You know that we should live in a cornucopia. It's not even a thought. You know what I mean? Like free
Mhm.
energy. Like it shouldn't even be like a word free. It's just that's natural to be able to communicate and do things and travel. That's another thing that I'm seeing about the 1800s. They were very mobile. Like they were,
Yes.
adventurous. They went on expeditions and they took to the sea and they took to the air, I believe, too, in ways that they
Mhm.
to forget about. Like you brought up the whole Zephyr thing. It's like I don't know why I've been so blocked to looking into Zeppelins and Zephyrs and all of these things. Amazing technology, like when it comes to transportation as well.
Mhm. A lot of evidence of railways predating known creation of railways, like meaning, before we even really got going with railways, and even in, Europe and the United States, and a lot of areas are built on top of existing transit systems. I mean,
Mhm.
that were like they were discovered in the 1800s. So they had, and in most of these areas, they're like 10 to 30 feet of dirt, silt, mud, whatever. So they're built on top of this stuff. I mean, can you imagine how long it would take if unartificially anyway, like if there wasn't an event to create that amount of sediment, or that amount of 30 feet of sediment takes a long ass time to accumulate. So,
Absolutely.
and that goes with that time compression thing. Like they're trying to make you think that.
Mhm.
So there's only one of two plausible explanations that it happened that way, and they're lying about the time frame, and it took a lot longer, and so there was a far more advanced civilization, and after they were gone, thousands of years passed, and blah blah blah. Or in most cases, because you can find horse, like animal skeletons along with the people stuff, like Constantinople, which is Istanbul, I believe now. I think, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Constantinople um, had a harbor, and I can't remember the name of the harbor, but it was a famous harbor, which is no longer there. Like if you look at a map of Istanbul now, like where the map pin would be for this particular harbor is quite a ways off of where the actual coast is now. So
Mm.
it was buried by something, whether it was a catastrophic event. There some people say, oh, it was a tsunami, yada yada yada, or it was this, or it was that. But when they started excavating for like a modern railway or a modern transportation line of some kind, they always seem to find these pre-existing things. Like in this case, they found this harbor with the ships, like the
Wow.
hulls of the ships, and they found camel skeletons and goats and all this other stuff.
Mhm.
And in
Wow.
a lot of cases, the animals like the camels were in positions that would lead people to believe that it was a catastrophic instance because it happened instantly. Like it happened like
Right.
snapping their necks or bending their necks backwards, like so they were hit by a wall of water or a ball of mud or whatever the case was.
Right, right.
They didn't die naturally they didn't. So, but the odd thing is in some cases, like if you go even a mile away from where that harbor was, like if you go a mile east, if there was a catastrophic event or even any event, that area should be just as affected as the harbor was.
Right.
But in a lot of cases, they weren't. Like it was like they didn't have the same, same findings in those areas close by. So it's just, and this goes back to my whole moon thing and the whole idea of the moon being hollow and being some kind of a blind for a race of beings that are manipulating history and that kind of stuff, or observing or whatever. I think that there's a lot more interference with things, including our weather, that we don't realize that is happening. And so in a lot of these areas where these mud floods happened or the sediment deposits happened and covered these areas. And the funny thing is, this is a side note, if you go and do a little digging, a lot of the official explanations is, and this is what gets me and it makes me laugh every time, is they'll say, because they can't explain it, they'll say they intentionally buried the area before they left. Like they buried these buildings and they buried the whatever before they left the area. They tried to do that with the Western Roman Empire, with all these bathhouses and all these other things they keep finding in England as they're excavating. They keep finding all this stuff.
Right.
Oh, well, they buried it on purpose when they left. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
They have to go. I mean, I don't know how you would be able to lie like that. Even with something I just looked at, circumnavigating the earth, the globe. And you should see the mental gymnastics it takes to explain circumnavigation of the globe. They say, well, it's a little difficulty, like it's a technological difficult. They really put that as a hyperlink. Like if you go on Wikipedia, if you look up circumnavigation, it sounds like your child is telling you a lie. And you're just, oh, really? So you didn't eat the candy? Well, no, an alien came and took the candy. I mean, it's like, the dog ate my homework kind of stuff. It's really weird.
And funny you should say circumnavigate, because I've brought this up before, and I'm not the first one to mention this, but and I'm using the term globe loosely here, every circumnavigation of the globe has always been east to west. Or west to east, whatever. It's always been, this way. There has never been a circumnavigation of the globe that has gone this way. North
and
to
why?
south.
See, that's why we know we're not educated correctly, because some smart, alecky kid should have asked that question by now in class. Right?
Yeah, you'd think.
Like, somebody's inquisitive enough to ask, like, why haven't they ever done circumnavigation of the globe from the north to the south poles? Duh! I'm so angry at them. You know what? I would take like a fish and just beat these people like with a salmon that I caught from Alaska. Like, how did you tell us these lies so long? You're the emperor with no clothes. You're the Wizard of Oz behind the right. Didn't they say we were gonna have a moment like that where Toto just takes the curtain and then you see the guy behind the curtain? You're like, it was you all along. You were writing all the Wikipedia. You had us believing all you what?
And it's funny that Jim Carrey did, the Truman Show. He might even be the closest person to figuring out what's going on. So
yeah, he does. He trolls though. That's the thing
he
about
does
people
troll.
like him, and like Russell Brand and all those guys. Do you trust
Yeah,
them?
Russell Brand's
Like this
he's
is like
he's like Jeff Bezos.
he's like Jeff Bezos. I'm just saying, like, these guys, they know things, but it's so obvious that they're doing the trolling.
Yeah, there's some hard trolling going on, and I think there's some moments of clarity too.
Mhm.
It's all interesting. I mean, you
It
could
is.
speculate all you want about a lot of stuff, but until your mind latches on and you believe something, or you question something, it really doesn't hit home.
Right.
So I guess the long story short, I guess an hour and 40-minute story short, I personally believe that there's a lot more to the moon than we know, and I believe there's a lot more to things that have been manipulated on this realm, in this world, that may be connected to that artificial satellite and other things, and the ability to squeeze and stretch out the timeline and hide things and bury things and that kind of stuff, and like hitting like a do-over, as as Anal Schwab would say, the great reset. Just we're gonna basically, you're hitting a button and we're gonna be in charge. And it's almost like there's a crew working the night shift, a graveyard shift, and then the next shifts get ready to come up. So these guys on the night shift are preparing everything for the guys on the day shift, and that cycle just keeps repeating. It just
Right.
hold on a sec. There's echo. Let me get rid of this thing here.
Mhm.
There seems to be, and I want to find out like who their boss is, because it's been going on forever. Like,
I
who's their
know,
boss?
right? Well,
Like, who's-
I have a feeling.
well,
I know who
besides
their
the big S, but
the big guys.
there's got to be more involved. Like it's almost like, okay, now these people are getting too smart. Like they've advanced enough where, damn it, they're questioning everything now. How do we start this all over again? Because we need to start it all over again. And it's just interesting. It's interesting, and I think that there's more than people involved in this manipulation, and
Definitely.
things just don't make sense. They don't add up, and I always keep coming back, and Jennifer does too, to the 1800s, pre-20th century. And I do want to talk about this real quick. This is one of the books I downloaded. It's 33 pages. Most of them are, the other 4 or 5 are like 400 and 600 pages. So I can't believe somebody had that much information about Tartaria. So I got to read those, because if there's 600 pages worth of stuff, I got to read
It's
it.
gonna be a lot of gems in there, hidden.
Yes. So this idea, this word that Jennifer mentioned, this antiquitech, I love that word too. Antiquitech of Tartaria. That sounds like a title, like a
I know,
like
it's
a royal
awesome.
title. Like,
Yeah.
who are you? I am the Antiquitech of Tartaria. Don't mess with me.
Definitely.
This is my son, Testicles.
If you or how about this? If you worked in the tech squad, like the
Oh,
the
like the Geek Squad or whatever.
geek
Like
squad, that would be the Antiquitechs of Tartaria. Imagine their uniforms.
and they look like Game of Thrones characters,
Yeah, I want to be hired.
or they look like Napoleon, or like they would.
Yeah, they'll be dressed in Victorian clothes.
They
Oh my
have their
God, that would be
hand
like
in
a-
their jacket, like they're.
That would be an awesome, like, kind of movie thing. A little
Yeah, I
book.
just thought of the same thing. I almost wrote it down with the my other napkin stuff here.
I'm suspecting that people will be writing like a new genre of like literature. Wouldn't you think about some of these things that we're uncovering? It would make great fiction, nonfiction, mythology, whatever.
Yeah, I mean the stories are amazing. Like you have a perfect backdrop, a perfect setting for like a even like a steampunk thing or a Sherlock Holmesy kind of thing, or even like just something, just
Yeah, lots of material. It's not a shortage of material. It's something about that 1800. It's exploding with, I'll just say abundance of many things.
more abundance than there should be for the 1800s. For a civilization up to that point, they have a lot more abundance, relatively speaking, than what we have. I mean, they have
I think so.
just it's an amazing amount of abundance,
I
and
agree. It's way more than we have. I think ours is, again, it's more plastic and it's based on image and stuff that's not. It's fiat, whereas they were
yes.
the steel, steel and heavy metal, like the Singer sewing
Mhm.
machine just talking about. Just think of that Singer sewing machine, and that lets you
That's
know.
right. So my pronouns are Antiquitech of Tartaria. I
I'm gonna
demand you're a
pronoun.
racist if you don't call me that. I'm going to demand
Oh
these
my God. See, we could
woke
have
SOBs.
that should be a little project. Everybody think of your pronouns, your mud floody. Yeah, that's funny.
John Carter of Mars. There you go.
Yeah, that's quite a
We're all going to have titles. We're the new aristocracy, the mud flood aristocracy, and Antiquitech of Tartaria will be the first leader, the first emperor.
Oh gosh.
So
Oh,
I don't know how.
EMF, ancient EMF technology. Wow.
Yes, we're gonna get to that by We Warrior, whoever We Warrior is. So that's
Pen
whatever.
name. Pen name.
I hope so, and not. Never mind. Not a stage name.
Staged name.
So I'll read a couple things from this, and then I'll show some pictures. So by We Warrior. So I've always had this funny feeling about those fancy classical stone structures covered with fussy, like Fussy, fussy carvings. I like when people can't describe something, they call it fussy. That indicates like an old, like
Yeah, fussy.
like your grandma or something would say that, it's
Right.
fussy.
Persnickety.
Don't be fussy.
Yeah, I like persnickety. Anybody like
Yes.
persnickety? I used to tell my
Persnickety.
daughter she was persnickety.
Snarky. Persnickety.
Yeah, snarky.
Intricate aerials, colossal columns, and enormous entryways was all that really necessary. And if we'll see in future episodes, I want to show the interior of some of these Tartarian architecture because the ceilings are so tall, everything's like oversized, overscaled in a lot of these grander buildings, not the normal type dwellings, but
Right. Oh wow.
so this diagram is a diagram of the principal high buildings of the old world. So I can't read what's on here, so I have no idea what it says. But Wee Willie says, why would our forefathers exert such a Herculean effort back in the old days, in quotes, and Jennifer's brought this up many times. Herculean effort's a good description.
Yeah.
Back in the old days, with only human and beast power aided by pulleys and levers, and we have to remember, as we've been taught, population. They didn't have that big of a population, disproportionately low population to the amount of amazingly intricate and massive structures, the scale of which you would need a massive culture. Maybe literally everybody's job would be building some part of this building. Like you literally have no grocers, no meat cutters, no blacksmiths, no postal people, no whatever. You wouldn't have time to do anything.
Resources, no human amount of resources that could have done it, because again, I have to keep reminding myself, these buildings like this, they went up at the same time all over the realm.
Yes.
So the population was very, different. It was lower. And all of these buildings like this are popping up everywhere. Like India, you have them in China, you have them everywhere. So
Even in
India,
remote locations.
yeah, and so they were all built in this part of the 1800s, like mid to late 1800s. That's what they are telling us, everyone. I keep repeating this. I'm like, that's what they're telling us. They built all this at the same time. Within 4 years, all of these things popped up all over the world. Wow.
I'm not sure. Since we're on this, I'm going to skip to this real quick and then go back.
That is so
I just
beautiful.
discovered this recently. This is the temple at Cholula Pyramid. This is in Mexico. This is larger than the Great Pyramid in Giza.
Wow.
If you were to excavate this, and I'll show some more pictures, it's larger than the Giza Plateau, larger than the largest pyramid. And again, we don't know really when this was built, but
And the paint, like the color of that alone, like how would you? Oh wow!
here's one of the towers sticking out of the ground there.
Oh my
But this
goodness.
whole complex is a pyramid. It's buried, but it is a pyramid.
Crazy, right? I'm just what? Oh, this is also a tunnel system, of course.
Yes, this temple at Cholula dwarfs the Great Pyramid at Giza. The giant pyramid in Mexico, hidden inside a mountain under tufts of grass, trees, and soil, is an ancient pyramid of truly gigantic proportions. For an obscure, and I never heard of this until this week either. I'm 56 years old, never heard of this until this week.
Wow.
For an obscure temple of no one's heard of, Cholula holds an impressive array of records. It might be one of the largest pyramids on the planet, with a base 4 times larger than the Great Pyramid at Giza, nearly twice the volume. Never mind the largest pyramid, it is the largest monument ever constructed anywhere by any civilization to this day. Would you like to explore deeper? And of course I did. And that's,
Yeah.
that's some other places. That'll be another show. So keep doing it. There we So go back to my technical difficulties again, folks. Hold on.
At least you're organized. Look at you. You're like organizing files. I need to do I don't
here we
know.
go. So, and that's just, it's the largest monument ever constructed anywhere in the world by any civilization, and we've never heard about it. Like I never read about it, never saw it in a history book.
No.
Let's see, what does Julie say here? I gave keys tonight to a Hindu family, and they said their altar for paying has to be set either east or west. Their altar for paying. I need an altar that pays me. Lost my train of thought. But anyway, can you imagine what other things around the world are there that we don't know about? And this is, from my understanding, this is remote. Like this isn't something that would have been easy to construct in its location.
Right.
So
amazing. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and this is how it is, people. This is how these rabbit holes get these. I messaged Jennifer earlier because I am concerned about her, but I was being fake concerned that to make sure that she comes up for air and that she eats some food and blah blah, and not just subsist on popcorn. And
you shall not live on popcorn alone.
So she said that she had a regular meal. So
yeah, that's so funny because it's like become a weekly thing where whatever content it is, it just engulfs me for at least two to 3 days. And whoa, when I come up for air, once I upload it, it's like, okay, now I'm coming up for air.
It's like you're birthing a baby.
No, it does. Like it really is. Like it's like how you heard artists talk about their creations that way, like a baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
People that write, They say that often.
If they're genuine about what they're doing and they fully are into what they're doing, then yeah, it should be exhausting, because
Hmm.
if you're not putting everything into it and it's not something that you wholeheartedly believe in or wholeheartedly, blood,
Yeah,
sweat, and tears, there's no point in putting it in the world. I mean,
that's right.
you're not creating the act of creation, whether it's, in that respect, or human creation or whatever. Any creation is not without its pain or pleasure, for that matter.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. Yeah, Julie says, sorry I got behind somehow on your live video. Can't exist on popcorn only.
That's right.
Then-
Did anyone get the popcorn I suggested? I wish I could get something for it. Oh my gosh, the one at Big Lots, you all, the cracked pepper and sea salt popcorn. Oh my gosh, it does taste like eating a real meal. It's something about the pepper.
Jeez. I
Oh,
don't
and
know
it
about that.
some kind of no, it does. It's not just black pepper. They have some kind of jalapeno, like a spicy pepper too.
Jeez.
Dusted. Oh yeah, I'm waiting to see if somebody tries it out. I get nothing for it. I'm just doing it for the goodness.
You would probably enjoy. You said you haven't been to the Mall of America, right?
No, yeah, haven't been there. Where's
They
that
have
one?
in Minnesota, Minneapolis.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. No, I've not
So
been.
now it's just the gang central,
Gosh.
but back when I lived there briefly,
Hmm.
it was an interesting place. It was massive. It was like the mud
Wow.
flood building of the Midwest. It's huge.
Yeah.
But they had a jelly. Who's the big jelly bean manufacturer?
Oh, yeah. The Jelly Bellies. No?
Yes, Jelly Bellies or
Jelly
whatever.
Bellies. Okay, yeah.
Whoever that big manufacturer is, they had a place in the mall,
Hmm.
and they literally had hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of flavors that you could go in and try. Like, you didn't have to buy like a whole bag. They literally had all these little sampling stations. Some of the most interesting flavors I've ever. It was like Harry Potter or something. It's like trying all these weird.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't have barf flavor or something, but it was just they had everything else,
Yeah.
like chocolate pickle, all kinds
Yeah.
of just weird, off
Yeah.
the wall
Weird
stuff.
combos. Yeah. They didn't start out doing that. You notice how they got into the weird stuff after they introduced it as innocent.
Stop talking about popcorn, Julie. She says popcorn flavor is the best.
Popcorn flavor. Oh, yeah, jelly beans. I got confused.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. We're off of popcorn, but now we're on jelly beans. But yeah, popcorn flavored
There's
jelly bean is the
popcorn
best.
flavored jelly. That threw me off, Julie, when I first experienced popcorn flavored jelly beans. That messed me up. My brain couldn't conceive that I was, because it had butter flavor too. So it was like, what is happening?
Well, there's a good point here. Moving on from the jelly beans. Certainly, all that effort could have gone into more practical municipal or military projects, which is true. If you're in a budding civilization or a budding community, you would think most of the expenditure, the time and the effort, the money, the cost would go into like municipal type buildings, like your city halls or your churches or your whatever, besides these palatial mansions and all these other weird abstract buildings.
Mhm.
Because I guarantee even now, I mean, not only was the population sparser, but I'm sure the finances weren't there, like to fund all these projects
Right.
with that
was
kind of
the
a
plan?
population, I should say.
But you know what? Oh my gosh, excuse me. Before I have to ask you this. You just uncovered something. These projects require so much money. So, how did what was the banking infrastructure to get all of this done and accomplished? This was happening again everywhere.
Everywhere.
We didn't know of they would have had to have an international banking system. So they would have had to agree on what their currency what would be internationally. So, okay, John, you just literally opened up a new rabbit hole. How would they have done this financially?
Maybe they had their own Jasara.
But I mean, they'd have to agree on, you know what I'm
Or
saying?
money wasn't a factor. Like,
It
or
could
money.
It couldn't have been. That's what I mean. That's my point. And like going down and like if we really analyze this together, because we'll figure it out together.
We're still talking about popcorn and crap over here. Look at this.
Don't
They got,
we can do two things at a time. We could talk about popcorn.
Nana's talking about pop pork skins. I'm with her on that. I love pork skin. I
Wait
love
a minute,
pork skins.
Nana, do they have that flavor in the jelly beans? Okay, it's time. It is time for
And Casey's like, popcorn sounds good right now. I forgot to eat. So now she sounds like you.
yeah, Casey, I forget to eat sometimes. That's not a good thing.
All right, people, we're trying to solve world problems here. We're trying to solve
we're back.
history
We're
problems.
refocusing now. Okay, so okay.
Maybe the economy was powered by popcorn. Maybe that's why this is so popular right now.
Well, that does make sense because you can say anything is currency. They trade shells, they trade popcorn.
Yes, there you go.
Or jelly beans could be currency. If everybody agrees, jelly beans are currency. Can't you imagine all the obnoxious Wall Street types? All the stuff they'll be talking about with jelly beans. That would be
What do you mean it's not what do you mean you don't have a central bank? It's not going to work. Not going to work if you don't have a central bank.
A central hub for
just ask the Rothschilds and the Wallenbergs.
Oh my gosh, that's so. But no, that just took another layer of the just absurdity to think that all these building projects could happen without a currency to exchange labor, supplies, right?
Yep. Unless you had help, unless money didn't mean anything, and people just did it because, which I doubt that. So it does raise an interesting question because it literally, in the space of time, the blip of time that this period existed, maybe it's a lot larger than we thought. Maybe it lasted a lot longer than we thought. And as Jennifer stated in the past as well, maybe they rediscovered some of these places and they started inhabiting some of these places that were either abandoned or the population was gone because of some kind of cataclysmic event from the idiots on the moon or otherwise, that decided to take these cultures out, because it literally happened everywhere, all over the place, not just the United States, everywhere.
And at the same time, and then all the weird fires, right, John? They were happening at the same time. So
the great fires, as they call them.
Yeah, the great fires of everywhere. I couldn't believe how many great fires I've come across everywhere.
And every one of them, there were some dumb people bombing buildings and destroying buildings because they had the crazy notion, and I don't think it was a crazy notion, I think it was on purpose, that if they were to destroy some of these buildings, they would act as fire breaks and stop the spread of the fires, these great fires. But instead, it made it worse in most cases. And all the people that supposedly knew what they were doing about these controlled demolitions either died or something incapacitated them, or there was some other, or they just didn't care. And it always happened at the beginning of all these great fires. And there was a lot of them. And it was always these structures, these beautiful structures that had been around for a long time that were sacrificed. And it was like they purposely used these great fires to destroy history. And they did a good job, I'll tell you that. Because in some cases, I mean, even in the smallest great fires, you had thousands, like between 1,000 and 2,000 structures destroyed in the smallest great fires. And the biggest ones, you had like 10 to 20,000 structures destroyed. That's to me, that's intentionally hiding something. Intentionally, it's like, okay, we're getting rid of this. We're starting over. And we're moving on. We don't want you to think about this anymore, and we're going to build right on top of it, right on top of the rubble. We're moving on.
That's right. Looks that way. Wow.
So years ago, to answer my initial curiosity about why the same colossal architecture was imitated in cities around the world, I delved into the symbolic meaning of monuments and city layouts with the help of esoteric researchers like Freeman Fly. Never heard of Freeman Fly. Is that Marty's brother or something? Marty McFly? And Matthew Deleuze. Why don't people have names like that now? Anyway. Who postulate the human energy gathering potential of such structures. So we're going to scroll through some pictures here. This gave me a first clue to the recurring architecture wasn't random or mere imitation. These elements all add up to something that involves power. Here's one of those pictures I was talking about where you always had like these antennas, as Jennifer calls them, and they always have these supporting wires attached to them. And a lot of these structures, they had these almost like dragon scale looking features to them. Like you would have like on an energy grid, like you would have like all these little these little collectors, these little diodes, or these little that transferred power, transferred electricity. And I mean, even look at this building. I don't know when this building was supposedly built, but
it's
amazing. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, like out of what mind does that come from? Just the
whatever mind it was happened around the world. So they either had the ability to communicate these ideas with each other, or the ability to travel and communicate these ideas to each other.
And then another thing we should ask is, where did they get trained in these, architectural skills? Like what colleges did they attend? Universities? Like they had to have taken architecture, but then you need trade schools, because you're not going to just build these kind of structures without what type of trade school? You'd have to go to the inner or Agartha University, somewhere like that's not even something we have here.
Because Beavis and Butthead didn't build this. And
oh God,
if you think about the average, you hit it right on the head. It would be such a precision trade that you couldn't just learn it on your own. I mean, I'm sure you could. I'm sure there's people that are artistic enough that probably could figure out some things, but on a scale like this, where you're actually putting together a structure and making it look like something and meaningful, it boggles the mind that how many people, again, assuming the population was as small as they say it was, the percentage of the population that would have had to have known these trades to build all of these buildings, even in one city like San Francisco or whatever, I'm just using San Francisco as an example. Not that that's the case, but we had thousands and thousands of buildings that were literally built within the space of 2 decades. What percentage of the population would have had to been involved in the trades in some way, whether it was carpentry or masonry or engineering of some kind, or even an artist? Because
you need them too.
Because these buildings are works of art. They're not like you would typically think come out of an engineer's mind or whatever.
Yeah, this comes out of something way beyond engineering. But how about this? The obvious right now, John, whoever drew this, right? Whoever drew this with pencils. That right there. Okay, what?
And actually, I think this one, you hit another good point. They did a lot of charcoal and they did a lot of pencil, but one of the big things before the 20th century was etchings. A lot of people did etchings. And
Mm.
this looks like an etching because there's a lot of straight lines and stuff like in there.
It's amazing. Like that alone, not even talking about the structure, but whoever did this etching, what school did they go to?
Right.
What university is that? Who teaches this? I want to go. I'll go back to school 4 years if I could learn this.
They were probably in this family. Antiquitech of Tartaria.
Definitely. They're the gatekeepers of this stuff. They take you to the no, seriously, like the university. Is no university on this world realm that we know of that could teach this. I'm not
Yes.
kidding. You would have to go beyond the great north to Agartha University.
That's right. And then you'd come across the giants.
Yeah, like
Well,
Julie.
speaking of giants, oh my God, sorry. There's another squirrel. Hold on. Ran across this.
Oh my goodness! Whoa!
This is a legit picture that's stored in a French museum somewhere in like an anthropological display.
Oh,
It's titled African Giants, and these are all females. You've got one here, one here. It doesn't show the other one.
they
Hold on,
must be the Amazons that I was looking into. Like, do they say that they're from like Nigeria area, like over in West? It has to be West Africa.
See, when was this?
That
This was
is
again, here's our 1800s. African
Right.
giant woman, 1897 was when this supposedly this photo was taken.
wow.
This is
Yeah, it has
a
to be like because they claim that photography only came out like in 1870, right? Isn't that
Yes.
is that right?
So there's a video here. I'll play this real quick. You can't hear anything this guy's saying. The volume is so low.
That
Hold
is
on.
amazing.
But there's a third one, and it's not in this frame right here.
Oh my. Oh,
There's a woman standing here, and then these two, and it's
wow.
like this one on the right is the tallest one. This is supposedly like the young one, and this one is they
Oh, I
figured was about 20 years old or something like
Oh,
that, 21.
really? Can you imagine? There's like, yeah, that must be Benin. That's where it is. The Kingdom of Benin. They had Amazons.
Yes,
And they were
actually
out-
bred monitor lizards from Benin or Benin,
Oh,
however you
really?
pronounce it.
From Benin?
Yes.
Really?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yes, they were called white-throated monitors.
okay.
Varanus albigularis, the scientific name.
Oh, wow. Those are always fun.
Yeah.
This is
So let's
amazing.
see here.
Wow.
But if you had headphones on, you'd probably be able to hear what he's saying. But he's talking about where this picture is, where it is in France.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, when you said giant or whatever, it just made me think, oh yeah, I just discovered this. So
Oh, I like
Yes.
that. They said quackademia. You know what?
Yes.
If I went to school now with the way I have started questioning things, I would be invited to leave. I wouldn't be able to get a degree today with the stuff that I have discovered. My instructors would not like me. They would probably invite me to drop the class. Just
they would
from
treat me like Bill Murray from Caddyshack.
Oh my
That's what
God.
they would look at me like. They would look at me like I was wearing one of them floppy hats with the string, tied underneath, and I
There's no
talked all goofy and
exactly.
"Get in the hole." And I'm sorry if you haven't seen Caddyshack.
Oh, classic.
And if you haven't, why haven't you? That's all I got to say.
It's been a long time.
On a total side note, again, this show's about rabbit holes, so it shouldn't surprise you. Total side note, if you ever saw the movie Top Gun, did you see the movie Top Gun when it first came out back in 86 or whenever it was? I don't know. For me, anyway, Julie says, I look at him like that often. You mean Bill Murray? Anyway,
Funny.
For whatever reason, the movie Top Gun had a huge impact on me when I was a kid. I was like 20 years old when it came out.
Mhm.
It was 2 years after I graduated, but it had a huge impact on that entire generation. And for me, I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to go into the Air Force and wanted to be a space shuttle pilot, yada yada yada. But because of circumstances and my height weight ratio and that kind of stuff, it never happened. So anyway, but the movie Top Gun really just, it was like Jurassic Park. There's like these iconic movies or landmark movies that happen, and to some people they affect them differently. Like to me, that movie just affected me. So anyway, on Friday, Julie and I got to, like, this company that we work with in real estate is a title company. They basically reserved the entire movie theater. This is IMAX movie theater. So we could preview the new movie Top Gun Maverick, the one that just came out. And I'm going to tell you, but you have to like the original movie. I'm just going to preface that.
Okay.
But this movie blew me away. It absolutely blew me away. It had the
Really?
same impact that the first movie did. Rarely does a second movie of anything have the same impact. This movie just literally, it's one of those, especially at this time right now, that the things that we're experiencing in this world right now and the craziness that's happening, this movie will reinvigorate your love for this country and your love for just the idea of overcoming insurmountable odds and winning. It is just, it's a very well done movie. And I don't usually say that about Tom Cruise movies, but
no, yeah, you're like the second person I'm hearing. Another person I heard say they were very surprised at how well done it was. I was surprised to hear that.
Blew me away. So if you get a chance to see it, I'm not going to tell Jennifer because she's got too many other movies she's got to see already.
Oh my gosh.
She already's living on popcorn, so I can't do that to her.
I have no time in the day. Yeah, I have a lot to catch up on.
But you need one of those mud flood houses with the theater under your house. So.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? Wow. Some things just make you go, wow. That was definitely one.
Yes, it was.
It was unexpected. That was the thing. Like, who would have ever? I read another comment in the chat where they said they thought the little chairs on the side, they thought that was I was like, yeah, okay, nice theater, cool story, right? And then it just went one more turn, and it was like, whoa, snatch your clutch your pickles.
I know there's some of you that weren't on when I played that video. I want to play that video for you.
Oh, put your drink.
This is what Jennifer and I talk about when we talk about Tartarian architecture and mud flood type structures.
This is a perfect, I think, introduction for people who don't know what it is. This would tell you what it is without telling you what it is.
Yes.
Where you would go, oh, that's what you guys are talking about. Like,
and like here, I'll just show you the video.
Yeah, it's a show and tell.
Ah sì? Ma questo è un passaggio segreto. Ma dai, posso andare? Dai. Oddio. Non è possibile! È un teatro qua! Un teatro all'italiano, meraviglioso, sotto una villa. Fantastico!
Yes, fantastico! Oh my God.
So for those of you that missed it earlier, that's what your typical Tartarian architecture mud flood house. This is like a Shakespearean theater underneath it. Let alone the architectural magnificence of these buildings above ground. Imagine what was involved to create that space under the house.
Yay. Wow. This may be really silly, but can you imagine the concession stand to that theater? What kind of refreshments would they have for a theater?
I guarantee they didn't have any popcorn, so don't even go there.
I think they did, John. It was just fancy popcorn.
Yeah, back then it probably would have been those they call them Indian corn or whatever, like the multicolored one, or
Oh
like
yeah,
that kind
yeah,
of stuff.
like the rainbow blue. They'd probably have like truffles, right? Something fancy. I don't think they would just have like
Would you like a bag of maize, popped maize?
pop maize. Tartarian mousse.
That's right.
Wow, right? The food. Maybe I'm hungry right now, everyone, because I'm thinking of
And
Tartarian.
Casey's like, stop saying popcorn. I'm hungry.
Oh no, me and Casey, we have to go eat, Casey. Don't be like me. Don't do it. Don't do it, Casey. But listen, what if I unveiled some culinary from the 1800s, the Tartarian?
Yeah, there you go.
Wouldn't that be cool? Okay.
Yeah, it would.
I may find something, everyone. I don't know.
But the way it works for Jennifer, she'll start on that. She'll find something else, and then
Yeah,
I'll
that's what happened.
get a
with this
text or something. You gotta see this video. I'm getting ready to upload. I'm like, is it on Tartarian popcorn? No. It's
This last one I just uploaded today, had no idea. It totally came out of like going down all of these other little off side roads. Don't go off on the side roads if you travel. That's when you get beat up by the, I'm not gonna say it, who beats you up in the alleyways if you go traveling.
yeah, the quackademia.
Quick. Don't go alone. Always go with a buddy.
Yes, that's right. So this wee Willie or whatever his name is states here, she pointed out that drawing electricity from the atmosphere could be relatively simple if your city was planned with buildings designed to properly attract, collect, and dispense the accumulated current.
Oh,
Look,
boy.
you have literally all these buildings are giant lightning rods and whatever else, it is being referred to as antiquitech.
Antiquitech. I might have to create a set. You guys, I got a gift. It's going to be really, I shouldn't tell you. I got the coolest gift, I'll just say. I have to learn how to use it, though. John will probably figure out what it is. I want to create my little sound things. Someone is creating a monster in me. But no. The okay. One more
thing.
thing.
A stream deck?
Yeah, is that what it's called? I have to learn all the terminology.
I knew it.
I have to learn how to use it. But okay, John, one more thing, everybody. What you just read, John, makes me think of, okay, now we have tech people. What school would you go to learn? Is that, oh, yes, yours is different. Oh, wow, it's fun, huh? You have one. Yes, of course.
Same principle.
Stream Deck. I'm going to learn it. But okay, John and everybody, what schools would teach people Antiquitech? Think about Antiquitech.
Yeah, to maintain these buildings, who would maintain them?
And the city planners. You'd need a lot of city planners who would know where to zone, right? See, this stuff is falling apart more and more. You'd need people that would know all of this stuff ahead of time, where to place these buildings to get the maximum amount of whatever conductivity. And they would have to do, this is a very orderly aesthetic, right? They're not doing things haphazardly. So they would have to be more orderly than we are. Like, what society runs really well? Like something like Sweden, right? Don't they run really well? So you'd have to be like Sweden on steroids.
Yeah, literally, again, assuming that they're truthful about the population, which we know they're not. Literally everybody, their kids, everybody would have to be involved in this. At some point or at somewhere in the city, at some building, at some project, every family would have to be involved, literally.
Truly.
Because with the amount of time that I would imagine would take to construct one of these buildings, you couldn't just wait and construct one and then build another one and then wait and construct that one and then build another one. You'd have to have multiple workforces
Yeah.
working like crazy, like mad dogs for 2 decades.
I got another problem with this narrative. This is like, we could just do a whole, like, what? We could just think of all the debunkings. Okay, this is another thing that just came to me. If you know, in Alaska, all those big cities in Alaska, they have the same architecture up there. So what about the seasons where they have nothing but dark? They don't have daylight. So are they out building buildings during those seasons? Think about that, John. Isn't that crazy? They don't all have the same daylight time. Isn't that when buildings like this get done? They don't build at night. You'd need like a lot of,
like they had, like they do with modern workers. They got like the street lights of those portable generators and stuff like that, where they can.
Yeah, but I don't think that even in our times with artificial lighting, you can't build this kind of stuff at nighttime. Isn't this more of a daytime job, or am I just getting too caught up in the?
No, it's definitely a daytime job.
Okay, so
there's only so many hours in the day.
There you are, and then no hours in the day if you're up in the Norwegian areas, and they have these buildings. Everyone, same stuff.
Yeah, and up in those areas, we're not even going to talk about like the Netherlands and the trolls and that kind of crap. That's a whole nother show. The trolls interfering with their building.
Oh gosh.
But yes, Linda, that is true. Solar panels of the day. That's a very good way to describe them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like that. Mm-hmm.
So keep in mind, we are not talking about the conventional modern version of wired electricity used to run typical labor-saving devices. That is a good phrase we were just talking about. Labor saving. How are they saving on labor? It's like, geez. The concept of antiquitech is using architectural form and shape to attract the natural static electrical charge present in the atmosphere to tap the etheric, there's that word again, etheric energy, henceforth referred to as AEE. So we need to start getting our acronyms together now. A much more subtle force of nature that operates whether we believe it or not. At present, science has classified AEE as dark matter. That is true. To explain this all pervasive substance that eludes conventional physics. And if you don't know what dark matter is, you're going to get a little bit of an education, because dark matter actually makes up most of the universe, not regular, what we consider matter, but dark matter actually takes up more space. So dark matter is invisible, doesn't emit, absorb, or reflect light, so it's impossible to see. Scientists think dark matter helps hold the universe together. Yes, I just stated that. Advanced detectors help us to search for dark matter. Planet stars, the stuff we can see, makes up just 5% of the universe. Dark matter is everywhere. So they have a circle that says weird in the middle. So normal is 5%, 95%. The other is a mystery. So that's the weird part. 95% is weird.
There's the faith that you need. See, that's where the atheists and the other people, they're going to keep running into roadblocks, because 95% of a mystery sounds bigger than any other faith that you would need, right? Look at that.
Mysterious.
It's
been many decades since we first theorized that the existence of dark matter, but we still haven't proven it. A particle, question mark, or gravity? I already know gravity doesn't exist.
I know, that one just makes me laugh. Gravity.
Most scientists think that dark matter might be a strange type of particle. Others think it could be an undiscovered property of gravity. We're not going to go down that road. Let's see here. So from 1933 to present day, Swiss astronomer Fritz Zwicky. It sounds like Witwicky from Transformers, whatever that kid's character's name was, Witwicky. Fritz Zwicky theorizes the existence of a mysterious substance he calls dark matter. And in the 70s, Vera Rubin discovers evidence to support the existence of dark matter. 1990s onwards, scientists begin running dark matter particle detectors in deep underground labs. So anyway, so the theory goes that if properly harvested, Antiquitech could harness, and it's like a Ronco product now, Antiquitech, or Elon Musk.
I like that word. I'm going to make everybody really mad. I'm going to use it a lot. Antiquitech. I'm going to say it like that. Antiquitech.
Yes. Or get like a little stuffed animal. That's all it says when every time you squeeze it or something.
Yeah, it could be like a little
like an Ewok. Yeah, like a.
And it would have to be dressed in steampunk.
There you go. And it would have its own private Zeppelin that you could fly it around in.
Stop it. That's so awesome. I am really caught into this right now. I want to write books now. I want to do this as a genre niche. Uh-oh.
Watch John Carter.
Oh gosh. This is really going to be about the 1800s, right? John Carter? It's going to go back to the 1800s. Oh my gosh. I can't wait. And can you send me this link right here of this article? This is fabulous.
Well, this is technically a book. Technically.
Oh, okay. Oh.
But I think I have links to all these books. So I'll send them to you.
Thank you.
So theory goes that if properly harvested, Antiquitech could harness and channel AEE into buildings to generate light, regulate temperature, and we were talking about that earlier, and create an energy field that sterilizes harmful bacteria.
Bam.
Using the axiom, and this is where we're going to get a little deep, using the axiom that the simplest explanation is usually the best. That's what Occam's razor or something like that. Mm-hmm. I've applied my elementary knowledge, it sounds like Dr. Watson or Holmes or something here, of electrical energy to postulate how certain building designs could harvest the kind of refined spiritual energy that creates a healthy, climate-controlled, well-lit environment for its occupants. So
I don't know why I want to do that. I just want to do this. Oh my goodness, that's powerful. Oh my goodness, please.
But can you imagine, like, if you lived in a culture that they thought about the whole body experience and your health and that kind of stuff?
I'm supposed to be there. When is the ship coming? When is the airship coming? Because I was supposed to be there like a long time ago. I'm late, John. I'm messing around down here. Like literally.
Well, maybe that's why it seems familiar to you.
This is where I belong, for goodness sakes. Come on, everybody. We've been messing around in the ghetto too long. This has been a project to see, a literal project. We're in the projects.
That's why we can't have good things or nice things. What's that phrase? That's why you can't have nice things.
Yeah. Bill Gates is why we can't have nice things.
Here's again, we're going down this rabbit hole here. To grasp the idea of how architecture can harness power via AEE, let's focus first on places of worship. Cathedrals, mosques, and synagogues, since they are the most obvious structures in any city that should generate a beneficial energy source.
Oh, now that debunked my debunking that they were not. Uh-oh. Remember I said it earlier?
Yes.
It debunked my debunking, is that these buildings were not initially churches and cathedrals, but maybe they were. Because it was all, like you said, John, it was integrated. Everything. Like, can you imagine living in a society where everyone is moral? Like, they're moral. They do no harm.
Everybody has good energy.
Yeah, well, there's no need to want to take something that's not yours or be jealous or envious in any way. Everyone has a cornucopia of abundant resources and provision. So that would bring about a very moral type of civilization, right? I'm just thinking, so then health and everything is embedded in it. Okay, I'm waiting on the airship. I'm ready to go. Ready to get out of here.
Okay, this is the monastery, home of the Trappist. Well, there's a title I haven't heard. Trappist Order of Monks, Dubuque. So this is in Iowa, apparently. Look at that giant windmill up there. Jeez.
I mean,
so
what a giant windmill! Look at that. Wow. Oh wow.
So the basic strategy of harvesting AE is to build a nice tall tower or two or more, topped with aerials, hereafter referred to as fiddly bits, made of a conductive material fashioned to attract the AEE charge from the atmospheric static electricity field and channel it into the structure. And you like, and this is like one of those things I was talking about, like you see commonly in a lot of these buildings is like this, at first you would think, oh, this is like a multi-religion kind of symbol. Like it's like, but no.
And that little double cross thing, they have that on the Oreo cookies. I think I am hungry, everybody, but I saw some.
But there's a certain type of gold too, or a certain way gold's processed that really enhances this too. And I don't know if it's this book, but one of the other books talks about it.
Wow.
Please don't think that's excuse me. Please don't think that's just a lightning rod. Remember, conventional history insists that Benjamin Franklin was the first to install a lightning rod in 1753-ish. This structure predates Franklin by centuries, but it's still pulling a charge because fiddly bit appears to have a wire grounding or tapping. See, you can see this wire right here. It goes all the way to the
right there. Which one is that was fiddly bit?
This thing is the fiddly bit. The stuff on top is the fiddly bit.
I love that word, fiddly bit. I gotta use that, fiddly bit.
So you guys are getting some grammar in here too. See, Lady Knievel says, "Gotta say that to my hubby. I like your fiddly bits."
It's interchangeable. It could be. Casey
all those
told you to eat hours ago. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, this is probably how you get if you're trapped in a tunnel in an earthquake or something like that. When you're losing oxygen, you're just sitting there talking about fiddly bits and food and popcorn and zeppelins and
right. Insane asylums.
Yes. If all those, you can imagine the people that are in the Hollow Moon watching. This is like the Truman Show to them. They're just like watching everybody, and they're like, "We're in what, season 3 of the Exploring the Matrix, and we've got these guys. Have you seen the new season? You hear the stuff they're talking about? They're starting to figure this out? There's got to be a cataclysm coming up sometime. Who's on that? Who's in charge of that?" Oh, no. While they're eating their fried pickles and doing whatever, watching the
fried
pot pies or whatever kind of crap that.
Or what Nana said, like bacon flavored jelly bellies.
Always room for bacon.
Oh gosh.
If all those spires were just for ornamentation, twisted spires like this would make no sense. But the AEE harvesting theory throws new light behind the reasoning for building such structures. The second part of the formula to accumulate AEE is to place a dome or a steeple or both underneath the fiddly bits. So this is like the top of one of these buildings like this. You can see like the portholes there and the windows. Let's scroll down a little bit. A huge clock is also a common feature on these structures, possibly once functioning as a tuner for the more sophisticated Antiquitech.
Whoa.
And this is a good picture of what I was talking about earlier. A lot of these buildings have these antennas, these metal rods with these spheres, these gold spheres on them, or brass or whatever they're made of.
Mm-hmm. Orbs.
There you go. Casey says, "Are the insane asylums serving food right now? I'll bring my fork."
Casey, you should hear the menu that I just read off today from the one in New York City, the insane asylum. Not a good menu.
Now that the AE is gathered in the domed collectors on the ceiling, it can be channeled via long metal rods into the suspended chandeliers to provide heat and light without using fire or gas, ending in a filament that glows when exposed to this subtle current. Just an example.
Wow. Yes, Lady Knievel's spires. Another
Spires.
one
There
I
you go.
love. I love all these words. Like these are words we don't use anymore. Spires.
I'm going to skip ahead to some of this, but see how ornate this one is?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's so amazing.
but yeah, I mean, this is again another example of this architecture that's just it's
Yeah.
amazing. I mean,
I
it's just
just again,
absolutely.
I want to learn where you go to school to learn to do this.
Oh, and I'm not even going to go down this rabbit hole, but tying in with this, a lot of these buildings, especially the ones they called churches, almost everyone had a very ornate, massive pipe organ.
Absolutely. That is
Massive,
without a
massive.
doubt. Without a doubt.
And this goes into that whole frequency and vibration and that kind of stuff. And
Amazing,
won't,
right?
won't go into that right now, but
It's a big rabbit hole.
I mean, look at this building. Come on.
Oh yeah. That's the Biltmore.
Yeah. For instance, check out this pipe organ installed at the Biltmore Estate in Manhattan, supposedly built between 1889 and 1895. It was played from dawn until bedtime whenever the family was in residence. So they had their own like Igor or something, whatever was their hunchback or something that was. But like I said, I'm not going to get into the pipe organs. That's a whole nother thing. So
Yeah.
and I brought this up earlier. Another interesting aspect of these elaborate mansions and palaces are the non-wood burning fireplaces. There are what we would consider a fireplace, but they weren't wood burning fireplaces.
So there are no fire hazards. So why were all those mysterious fires happening?
The great fires.
Yeah, the great fires.
I mean, look how ornate that is. I mean,
That's
come
really real.
on. That's another organ, so we're not going to get into. We're going to skip over the organs, but see, and this was a feature that I want to bring this up of these non-wood burning fireplaces. They would always have two of these metal, whatever. There's a specific name for them. Most of them are vertical. They're like little, like miniature lightning rods, sort of. They got like a little ball on the top, and they're metal.
Wow.
Similar to the features you'd find on top of the buildings, but inside the building. And almost every fireplace you would see would have those features.
Wow.
Let's see here.
So
Here, see this here?
yeah, that's right. That right there. There you are.
And look at all the gilding. Look at all of the, that is incredible. That is incredible.
Amazing.
It's gaudy, but it's incredible.
Wow.
Let's see here. There was something else I wanted to see. Here's those two things again.
And then another thing
Here we go. This goes to your point, Jennifer. Perhaps this explains why these Antiquitech structures often catch on fire after conversion.
Oh,
like
God.
They're converted to wood burning fireplaces.
Are you kidding me? No one would do this. Like they really can't continue this lie much longer. You would never convert something so clean and safe to wood burning and using fire. I want out of this ghetto right now.
Oh, let's see. To help me determine the real old empire, Tartarian ? Residential architecture from the modern imitations, I took for four main features: fiddly bits on top, metal or stone protuberances to serve as antenna, flat chimneys, never enough chimneys to heat such large building. And that's a good thing. That's actually a valid point, because if you have a massive fireplace and you're using it to heat the structure, you would need a proportionally massive chimney. to allow, the gases to escape and, that kind of stuff. And to not, it just, instead you find these real thin, flat chimneys. Um, that's a good point. Dormers and towers on the roof to accumulate and distribute AEE, like this kind of fiddly bit stuff, going on up here.
That's
Like,
amazing.
to me, they look like Harry Potter mansions, like Harry Potter, like schools or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. That they're beyond. Look at the
And
little
another
trolley.
thing too, yes, the little trolley. Another thing too with a lot of these structures, especially the massive ones, a lot of the pictures I've seen and a lot of the videos I've seen, almost everyone has a massive front door with a smaller normal size door inset. Like there's like a normal for a 6-foot person door, and then you've got like a 12 to 18-foot massive door that it sits inside of. Like it was an afterthought to put this little 8-foot door or whatever in there, to let the little puny humans in.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So again, this just quickly, this is one of the maps that is hypothesized with Tartaria. It's larger than this because it extends into Canada and northern North America. So where you see Russia, Siberia, Ukraine, all this other, these normal areas that you would typically think with the North, with gypsy kind of feeling, cultures. There's, I mean, look at this building.
Yeah, those are some of my favorites. I like the churches like this these are like countryside.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be just one standing in, isolation. It's the Russians. That's right. Russia, Russia, Russia. I won't make this comment, but I have a feeling that we're going to be surprised. Not in a bad way, but just in a kind of way like, who owns all this stuff?
That's right.
Coming back for I keep saying they might be coming back for Alaska. I don't know who wants to defend the fact that we really do own Alaska, but I would say probably not.
That's right.
I'm just saying, don't be mad at me. It's just my opinion. I think they might be back for it.
Let's see here. Which brings us to the idea that civilizations can be purposely reset by controllers who then enslave the devastated population and relocate them into abandoned cities.
There you are. Yep, that's been their rinse and repeat, but they've run out of resets. Like they get one more, I guess, one more attempt. And
when they're trying it, because you got silly crap like this, even back in whatever date this was from the Washington Times, you can always tell when they're getting ready to ramp up for something, because it's always a comet, it's always a solar flare, it's all, well, in modern times it's a threat of a cyber attack, food supply disruption. So even back then you had this same, saved from the fury and flames of Perrine's comet.
Mm-hmm.
And
then they also have bio stuff, because remember they had the smallpox.
Oh yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
Spanish flu suddenly.
Wait till they find out about monkeypox.
Mm.
No, I mean these guys back in the 1800s or whatever, they don't know what they're missing. They only had to deal with the plague and crap like that, or whenever all that stuff was. And okay, here's a good example of this picture. I'm glad I ran across. I haven't looked at this book. I'm just scrolling through with you guys, but I've seen this picture before. This is a good mud flood depiction. See this building on the right here? See where the actual ground level is over here, compared to where the the ground level used to be. Same over here. You can see this. Anyway, you'll see buildings like when the picture was originally taken, when it was, we'll just use in quotes like Jennifer does, discovered or founded. You'll have a building like this, and you'll only see these these upper floors of windows. Like you will not see this. You'll think this is like the bottom of the actual bottom of the dwelling.
Mhm.
And then in later times, like in, when they start modernizing something or doing construction, they excavate around the building. Then they find that they had this whole other floor underneath it. They find these windows or these arches and stuff like that. And then the modern version of the building will have like a courtyard next to it where they excavated where you can see stuff like this. And this is not an uncommon thing.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, here you go. After studying many of the construction photos, and that construction in quotes, like construction
Yeah.
photos of these suspicious structures, I noticed these consistent features. Windows and entrances slightly below ground level. Work focused on towers, domes, and roofs.
Yeah.
Walls intact, often aged stone, but
Yeah.
no evidence of masonry activity.
Thank you. I need this link because that's what I was saying. Where they always look busy on that stuff. Yeah.
And walkways and plazas finished before the structures.
Yes, that. Oh, I'm glad. This is a
And
good.
you look at these supposed work towns with these shacks. These people, they're building these supposedly building these grand, exquisite buildings, and they can only put up these plank shacks.
Exactly. As they're riding in horse and buggies.
Yes. Also very curious is how many U.S. robber barons, and that's something I want to talk about at some point in another show, is the robber barons. That whole subject of the robber barons is something everybody should know about.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of connections to these, what we know as robber barons. So also very curious is how many U.S. robber barons managed to construct or acquire these old empire buildings early in their careers, but then decided they were too expensive to maintain and demolish them within 30 years. This happens almost with every one of them. They acquire these buildings, and then within a certain period of time, they end up destroying them. They end up either destroying them and rebuilding something that's even, more expensive. So, but again, it's like they have this plan to, okay, we can afford to acquire these buildings, and now we need to get rid of the history. So we're going to have these robber barons, these people that have all this money, mysteriously, magically, and then we're just going to, the building's in perfect shape, great order, great working order, but we're just going to destroy them. We don't want anybody to know about them anymore.
That's right. And it's so obvious that no one that has good fiscal, just why would they destroy something after 20 or 30 years? Just take it down to nothing, like makes no sense. These people would never do that.
And we've talked about this before at the World's Fairs. Makes you wonder if the main priority on their controller agenda was to identify and occupy these buildings and systematically dismantle their AEE features to put on exhibit at the World's Fairs.
That makes sense.
Look at this crazy picture. I've never seen this picture before.
No, that's unique. Wow.
While a select few could continue to enjoy the AEE benefits, the lower class citizens were restricted to rudimentary and dangerous power sources until the modern electrical grid was developed to assure society's dependency on oil, gas, and coal, which were easily controlled. And it is always about control.
Yeah.
Always.
Yep.
Once the new metered tech was rolled out, huge fires in major cities conveniently destroyed much of the evidence of the existing Antiquitech structures. Absolutely. It's the same pattern over and over. Great
Yeah.
fire in San Francisco, Chicago. I mean, there was in all the major cities of the then United States of America. There was always some kind of great fire.
Hmm. Around the same time too.
Yep. The remaining civic structures were folded into the elaborate World's Fairs and explosions held in every major city around the turn of the century. Geez, that's same time period. Once the event was over, the controllers dismantled all but a few choice old empire structures.
Wow.
Jeez.
It's so
Or they
disrespectful.
just, yeah, I know. Or they just relocated them to use for their country clubs. And you'll see in a lot of these country clubs, and these are what you would consider a country club. They have like this arch is a common theme. This like this Roman arch or whatever this is here. You see that a lot in a lot of these grand areas. And that's a shame. It is. And here you can see your little conductor things up there.
Oh, wow.
You can see the little nodes on them or whatever you want to call them.
Right. Amazing. Oh,
And this, he says, I kid you not. And they're literally transporting this with a tugboat.
that's awesome. Wow.
Must admit, it is a pretty sad and frustrating exercise to contemplate that we have been fed a load of lies and denied a graceful existence with comfortable, disease-free cities and clean energy for our homes and businesses.
Mhm.
It is doubly frustrating to realize how these great old empire buildings were usurped by the usurpers. Sounds like a band. Usurped by the usurpers for their nefarious enterprises.
Wow.
Yeah, it is.
Electric. Wow.
Yeah, inauguration hydroelectric. Look at that.
Amazing. I like the way they worded that. That is exactly how I feel. Amazing.
But where there is knowledge, there's hope. And I dearly hope that the flood of evidence, no pun intended apparently, chipping away at their narrative and entering our collective consciousness will prove the undoing of these convenient lies.
Oh,
Let's give it a try. We've only got ourselves to blame if we are further deceived. That's true.
Amen. That is really well put. Amen.
I also found was it a 13th or a 14th zodiac that I didn't know about that they hid from us as well.
Oh, Orpheus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That they unveiled that like a couple years ago, maybe Orpheus.
But it's been around forever. I mean, it like in ancient texts and so that's a whole nother rabbit hole. So let's see here. All right, so that's that. So I could go into a bunch of other stuff, and I know Jennifer can too. So we'll we'll leave the mud flood stuff there for now, and it's really got me thinking about this whole. I'm trying to keep a database. I'm trying to keep track of, even if they don't seem major, like cataclysmic events around the world that covered architecture or old transportation, whether it was roads or railways or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I want to plot it on a map.
That would be
and
cool. Wow.
I want to see. I just have this. I don't know. Just something's itching in the back of my mind that's telling me that if you, again, going back to the whole detective thing with the strings going to the different pictures and who's connected to who.
I think that's awesome. Oh my God.
Eventually you're going to find out who the puppet master is or who the puppet masters were in each of these time periods, including the fake time periods.
Right.
Because I really believe, and we talked about this earlier. Again, I'm 56 years old. A lot has happened in my life, a lot of changes, a lot of advances, a lot of things You could hide a lot of things in 100 years. You could change a lot of history in 200 years. You can make something non-existent in that time period, or you can create an entirely new one,
Yeah.
and no
New
one would ever be the wiser.
Yeah, new narratives. Look at how they've done it in just 2 years, 2, 3 years. They made it so you don't want to get any Aunt Jemima pancake syrup. You don't want to look at all these cultural little touchstones. They've gotten rid of it. They've made it touchy. You don't even want to eat pizza. I mean, some people are like, they don't eat pizza anymore. So just to think about how quickly narratives have even changed and people change their behavior and
And how
thinking.
quickly it becomes accepted. If you get enough people to accept it, then you can literally rewrite history.
They have
And nobody in the future would ever know about it.
no. Yeah, they wouldn't know because they would just think, yeah. They memory hole things, where, yeah. It's really bizarre.
Casey says, exactly. It's so obvious anymore. Revved up. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We are revved up. That is for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find something funny to end on. You know how I am. I'm just that could be appropriate for the PG-13 audience here. Let's see. So why don't you talk about your video that you just uploaded? Because I haven't seen it yet. Just kind of give everybody
I would say get yourself some popcorn and a nice warm beverage, okay? And your blankie. Mine is over there. I took it off. I got overheated. That thing is like wearing a bear or something. But get yourself in a cozy place. It's a fun my last one, I was cracking my voice crying as I was talking about the last subject matter. But this one is on a lighter note. But it has a bit of fantasy and Jules Verne steampunkish type of aesthetics throughout. So it's a fun story. Hope you enjoy it. Let me know, make a comment, let me know what you think because it is a mystery. I look at, again, the 1800s as a person of interest in a crime mystery. The 1800s has committed a crime. I'm accusing allegedly that the 1800s has committed many crimes. And we're on to you, 1800s. We're gonna figure it out.
Hold on, I'm gonna mute myself for a second because I don't know if this is the video I think of.
Lady could be.
That's right. Put on your armor of God to protect your fiddly bits.
There you go. You need to create that meme.
How dare you talk to the Antiquitech of Tartaria that way?
Now that was cute. These guns are killing. Oh God. Oh boy. Wow. I've been like so far out of that. Is that an exploding conversation going on right now?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm so out of it. Like I can't even imagine. Oh my. So Casey, you and I need to eat. I'm gonna eat something now, Casey. I hope you do too. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. That's cute.
Everybody like a monkey.
Oh, it's a monkey in my Oh, okay. I've said too much. All right.
What? No. What do you mean? What you said?
No.
Monkey.
It's just it's a monkey in the video that I did today. A few monkeys, I guess. Maybe. Oh, the cat just jumped. What the heck? Oh no. That kid in that meme, that's one of the funniest. Literally, the cat just jumped, okay, in my periphery. She's acting crazy.
Really?
Yeah,
Maybe
I'm like,
she's
see this cat jumping in the air, like over here. So if you saw me look, it's because of that. And they only do that when you're doing a live stream. They don't act this way normally.
you'll recognize this girl. She's in a lot of memes. I use her in a lot of memes too, but she gets used all the time.
Oh, yes. Oh, gosh. Yeah, she, poor little thing. She's been in a lot of memes. Her and that little guy. Oh, boy.
I'll find one more good one here. Let's see. Oh, there's just so many. It's like I almost want to just throw a dart, just kind of I show the chimp a lot, the one drinking the pina colada or
Oh.
whatever, sitting by the pond or that kind of thing.
Right.
Let's see. I'm not going to comment. I'll just.
That's cute. So true.
I mean,
beyond true.
all right, one more. I promise, just one more. We already did the tapping on the glass with the fish tank with what's her name, right? The Chicago mayor.
Oh, yeah. She's a walking meme.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, like, her not too old of a picture, she looks totally different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, totally. Making a contract with the devil, it really does the appearance not a good deal. She looks so normal at one time.
a few people I knew memes that I had.
The grocery store.
All right. We'll end it there. I'll find some other ones for next week. And so the thing I want to stress to especially all you lovable people that have stayed on this whole time, and haven't gone to eat, that as far as I know anyway, because now
yeah.
they're talking about pineapple, pepper, and cheese deer sausage with smoked cheese.
Oh, wow. Wow, Nana, you made me hungry. My stomach just suddenly.
Have fork will travel.
Wow, Nana. Why'd you have to do that?
A Lady Knievel. I just asked Google Assistant and asked, what are fiddly bits? Not even close, of course.
Oh, you're really having fun with this one. Fiddly bits. That's so funny. I like that. I like those kind of names, like cute.
I know. I'm telling you, it's the 1800s.
Like there was a restaurant in Cali, like in my old neighborhood, and it was something like Mrs. Tinky Winkles. Yeah, it was like a little boutique Mrs. Tinky Winkles, and I used to love that. It was just so cute. You had an eggy sandwich.
2 eggy sandwiches.
Oh,
Sandwiches.
Sandwiches. Ooh, sounds good. Okay, I'm hungry. I gotta go.
Yeah. So what I'm going to say is, everybody, I'm going to give everybody homework assignment for next week. You have to do one of these, however many things I'm going to mention here. You either have to watch John Carpenter.
Oh, okay. Let me write this down.
let's see. See, John, any Jules Verne movie. So, like, if Journey to the Center of the Earth, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, preferably not 20,000 Leagues because it doesn't talk about any of the stuff we've been talking about. But, so John Carter, any Jules Verne movie that talks about the moon or Journey to the Center of the Earth, Highlander.
Oh,
If you don't, like I said, this is just like you can pick one.
okay.
You can even watch it over the course of the week. Watch 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and the flow will suck. But anyway, gosh, now I forgot my train of thought. So Highlander, John Carpenter. I don't know, something along those lines. We've talked about enough stuff that just pick something, because I know Jennifer's going to stumble down another rabbit hole, and I'm going to stumble down another one. But they're always going to revolve around, right now anyway, revolve around this whole Tartarian thing, mud flood / 1800s / whatever, timeline change, compression, stretching. We're gonna be like a little, what do they call them, chiggers? We're gonna be like a chigger on the hair of a back of a dog, on this whole topic. So, Mr. Bean, I'm hooked on Mr. Bean. Does that count? Well,
Where is that? Mr. Bean is set in what time period?
that's a modern time period.
Oh, okay.
But if you like Mr. Bean, then that's like watching Benny Hill. I mean,
Oh, yeah, gotcha. Bean.
let's see, some of the like Arthur C. Clarke, like the Stanley Kubrick movies, like 2001: Space Odyssey, 2010: The Return, or whatever it's called. Or anything involving any of the subjects we're recently talking about. It doesn't matter. And I know I've brought up a number of movies in the past, and I'm having a brain fart right now. Maybe I'm hungry too. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. You've been awesome. And if you do have an idea or run across something from this time period, or see something or hear something about something, like you find your own rabbit hole, let us know. I mean, let us know what you found. We'd love to talk about it. This is like Jennifer's night school, like night class, or you're not watching it for free. You got homework assignments. In order to pass the class, you got homework.
Yeah, it's a group project.
So get your fiddly bits warm and straightened out and whatever you got to do. And put your weighted blanket, whatever it is.
With your Singer sewing machine.
I just pictured Jennifer walking around the house with a lead, like she was all hunched over like an old lady because the blanket was too heavy or whatever. That's like Julie does. My back hurts. Anyway, so there's anyway. Okay, so this is like trying to end the Benny Hill episode, actually. So remember, in this world of craziness, the only reason it's crazy is because we're finding out things like this, and the narrative will never be the same. They'll never be able to control it like they used to. I think once people are wholeheartedly involved with the Great Awakening, which we all are to some extent, we're going to find out a lot of things that we didn't know before, but we're going to be okay with it because we talked about it before. This whole familiarity, this whole, like, some of it won't be a shock. It'll be like, oh, that makes sense. Or, things will start to make sense and they'll start to fit together. And hopefully we'll be able to rewrite our history to what it actually was, or at least get a semblance, good semblance of what it was. So, and if any of you are investigators or any kind of, researchers, I would like to know a method. I think I know ways to do it, but I don't know if there's like tried and true methods of compiling data and research and making sense of it. I make fun of it, using the string analogy and that kind of stuff, because that's how my brain works, and I make all these notes and I write down this stuff and I draw lines to things and whatever, but that's kind of cumbersome. So I'm just trying to, if you know of any way to kind of streamline that, I would be greatly appreciative of that. So yes, everybody grab some food, whatever it is you're going to eat.
Yes.
I've made myself hungry, and I know Jennifer's hungry. So until
Enjoy
next
your
week,
meal.
yes, enjoy your meal, relax, enjoy your meal.
Yes. Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening. And if you have, again, suggestions, let us know. I know I repeat myself, so that's a bad habit, but sometimes when I want to emphasize something, I do that.
No, repetition is important as we learn right now, unlearn and learn. So people have gotten used to that. Repetition is important because they have repeated the bad stuff. So we have to, that's part of undoing it.
So when you're done eating, go to Jennifer's channel and watch her watch her latest video and her other videos if you haven't seen them. And maybe think about having an air race or a Zeppelin, or like maybe we'll have a steampunk episode. Who knows?
Nice.
So anyway.
All right.
You guys have been wonderful. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you,
always.
Bye, Julie.
Pleasure.
Thanks. Bye, everybody. Love you all. Enjoy your meal. Bon appetit.
Yes, enjoy whatever it is now.
Yes.
I don't even know if you're in a different time zone, whatever, sorry. But have a wonderful evening. Love you all. Until next week. See you later.
See you.